back and go through all of it because...
Yeah, that 8-man was cool. So we're live now.
Okay.
Now it's live.
Oh, well, you'll have to excuse me. I'm a bit sick, so if I sound a bit funny, that's...
No, that's all right. You've been cutting weight and shit so much lately. You're probably bound to get a bit sick.
Oh, man. In the bath, so when I cut weight, I usually use salt bath. I hate saunas. They just dry out my throat and shit. And I was sitting in the bath in Melbourne. I had like 3 kilos to cut. And I started getting like fever, like cold chills and shit. And the weight just was not coming off. And I was like, fuck, I'm going to get so sick. And then I had those fights, obviously. And then the next day I just woke up like, bam, head cold, like everything just...
Isn't the salt... it was on DC. Daniel Cormier was talking about it on the broadcast the other day. That salt baths just kill you way more than a sauna would.
Yeah, I mean, I've always preferred the salt bath because I think the weight comes off a little bit.
And then do you wrap in a hot towel
after? No, I
after?
don't do that. So what I do is fill up... Well, I used to have salt baths, but now I just have a hot water bath.
Yeah.
Because like I've tried salt baths, I've tried hot water baths. They both do the same shit, really.
Yeah.
But what I'll do is I'll jump in a bath. I'll have a speaker. I'll put on some music or a podcast or something. I'll set a timer for 20 minutes. And I'll just sit in there and wait and then jump out. And usually in about 20 minutes, I'd lose about 650 or 750 grams. So I have to do maybe 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
But some people do the thing where they, jump out of that, wrap up in a towel. And
yeah, that's what I used to see. Chris Cyborg used to do that.
I mean, you can do that, but I just think like... So in Orlando, I was saying before we started, in Orlando, I had to cut to 68, which was an extra 2 kilos.
For Karate Kombat.
For Karate Kombat, yeah. Because that's their weight division. It was either that or 75.
Well, that's a massive jump.
It's a huge jump. But I said to them, like, I'll fight either. But they matched me at 68. But anyway, I was in the bath, and I haven't cut to 68 since I was like maybe 21 or something. Like, we're going back years now. And I got to those last 2 kilos, and I ended up... I shut the bathroom door, and it was like a little sauna in there as well. And I went, and I was feeling really lightheaded, and so I was just sitting on the toilet before I was going to go in the bath, just like kind of gathering my thoughts about to go in. And then next minute I woke up and I'm in the bath.
Far out.
And it was like, I'd passed out and slipped into the bath. So it was like,
That's fucking crazy. So for anyone who doesn't know, this is Mathew Stevens. He's like probably one of the most prominent Muay Thai or kickboxers in Australia almost. You've been going crazy lately.
Yeah, I was just saying before, I've had 5 fights this year. I mean, it's kind of cheating because I had 3 fights last weekend.
I was going to say, yeah, and was that like did you plan to do that, or did you just kind of fall into it?
The 8-man?
Yeah,
totally planned. Like it was.
Oh yeah, because it seemed like it was so quick after Karate Kombat. I was like, Jesus, you're like, yeah, because I was messaging you and I just got to quickly go do it like a fucking 8-man tournament, and I'm like, what a weird fucking I just got to quickly go beat the shit out of 2 or 3 people.
Yeah. No, it was. I was saying to you before, I like to be active and I like to sort of have 6 to 8 weeks between fights. I don't like going longer than that because I tend to overeat, I tend to overdrink, and it just, I like to kind of have my little routine. But yeah, I came back from Karate Kombat, and this 8-man they told us was going to be like $40,000 in prizes and stuff. Winner gets 25. And it turned out to be the same weekend that Knees of Fury was going to be on. And I always fight Knees of Fury where I can, but I said to Ethan, look, 25k.
I remember seeing that picture, and they literally just gave you 25k. That like
all cash, bro.
Yeah.
Like it was like a brick. It was literally like a house.
Yeah,
brick.
It was fucking hilarious. I thought you'd get like maybe a check, or they'd like bank transfer. They just threw 25k cash.
Well, they wanted to send it to me, or they didn't actually want to send it to me. So. The gym, Fighters Express, who ran the show, are very well connected with underground figures, let's say, in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And so,
there's a lot of that in fighting, eh?
Totally, man.
There's a lot of it.
And I think where they wanted to get rid of cash, we
were talking about that with a certain MMA promotion in Australia today with when I was training with Miles today.
Yeah.
There's a specific promotion that's really big, and fucking they're just laundering money through it. Like, 'cause
Well,
everything's cash.
Oh, mate, yeah. It's just, there's so much money that goes into these shows. Like, I mean, for example, a table for this 8-man costs $3,000, you know, for 10 people. So it's like $300 a head, you know, and you get 3-course meal, but it's not three-course meal is not fucking worth $300, you know what I mean? But anyway, yeah, they said to me, look, we can either give you the cash now, or we can send it to you, you know, later. And I was like, I'm not leaving without the cash.
Give me the cash.
I ain't leaving without it. But what they made me do was sign for it, and they escorted me to the car with like security guards. And they were like, this is Glen Waverley. Like, you don't understand. Someone will try and, if someone knows, they'll try and. But I was with Brando, and Brando was like, I'm itching for a fight.
No one's getting. So, he's I want to get in contact with him. I've never talked to him before. I want to get him on as well.
Oh, he'll definitely come on and do a chat with you. He's a good dude. But yeah, so I had to count. Me and Richie had to count it. We're sitting in this room. There's like security guards at the door. Oh, meanwhile, like Britt, my partner, my dad, they're all waiting outside, waiting to go home. It took us like an hour to count it. Like, it was just that long. But yeah, finally it was all good. And then we were flying back, so I had to give the cash to Britt because she was driving back because I couldn't take 25K
I was going to say,
if
you take more than like 10,000, they start questioning you.
Exactly. So I didn't want to get flagged for that. So I gave it to them, and luckily it all made it back in one piece.
And you train out of Rikers. I was watching your highlight reels today. I did some research today, and your fucking kicks and like your hip dexterity is insane. You got a lot. Like, you got a spinning heel kick knockout.
Yeah, I've got a few spinning heel kick knockouts.
That guy got flat. One of them on your 3 years ago. You posted a highlight reel. That guy got fucking flatlined, but you got really powerful hands too, so it's pretty cool.
Well, yeah. I mean, so when I fought on Glory back in 2019. I used a lot of kicks, and they said to us actually beforehand, so this is the fucked thing about shows like that, and it goes with all promotions, is that you'll have a rules meeting and they'll say to you, this is what we expect, this is what we want, you know, it's on TV, we want flashy stuff, which is what they said word for word. They were like spinning kicks.
They want blood.
They said we want blood, and we want like a show. We want things that people will be like, wow.
You don't want to point. They don't want you to point fight.
Well, yeah, and so they've said like spinning kicks score higher than just punches and blah blah blah. Anyway, I go out there and I do it, and of course the spinning kicks don't fucking score because the referees just do whatever they want anyway. But we came back from that and we said, all right, look, what they want is for you to be much more aggressive, walk forward. So I've spent the last like 3 years since then basically training boxing with my boxing coach, Richie.
Your hands do look really good.
And they've come a long way. And then in this last 8-man that we had, it was basically all just hands, you know. I landed one flush head kick that got my opponent an 8 count in the first fight. But then from then on, it was like the second fight, I knocked that guy out with a left hook that was just flush. And then in the third fight, I'd been chopped out. The guy had done 2 calf kicks, like absolutely fucked my leg. It's still fucked.
They're horrible, aren't they?
Oh, mate.
And you can't really check them besides just plant your foot and kind of absorb.
And that was the thing. I was walking forward. I was aggressive, so my weight was on that front foot, and it was just there to be hit. And he copped it twice, and it's still fucking sore and swollen and stuff. So it's probably broken. So I have to get that checked. But I was in so much pain in that last fight, and I just like, all right, well, I just have to stand and trade. So, and luckily, this is the game. He knew that my calf was sore, so he tried to target it. But when you try and throw a low kick, you're open to that straight right. So I was just sitting on that straight right all night, and it luckily landed a few times.
Yeah, because they call it, that's like a new foot, like the new style of Muay Thai, like heavier hands.
Yeah.
Rather than just like those Thais, you watch them and they're so light on their front foot, they're so light.
Yeah.
But now it's more like you see a lot more Muay Thai fighters kind of planting and putting power into their hands.
Well, especially with like 1FC and you've got the 4-ounce gloves.
That's something you should. Have you thought about
that?
Well,
we've spoken to them. Tony Caruso's actually spoken to them and they're interested. So, I mean, it's something that we can definitely...
That 4-ounce Muay Thai is fucking nuts.
Yeah, well, I was keen actually to do the cage Muay Thai.
That's what it, like the cage Muay Thai with the 4-ounce gloves. It's the best aspects. It's what everyone loves about MMA.
Yeah.
Like it's everything everyone loves.
Yeah.
Because whenever anything goes to the ground, if you're not versed on it, it can seem boring.
Yeah.
So if you haven't watched it, 1FC's like cage Muay Thai, it's so good.
Yeah, it's the kickboxing, I think, is still in the heavier gloves, but they do the Muay Thai in the 4-ounce gloves. And
makes a big difference.
Oh, mate, you just see so many knockouts because people have that guard where they're kind of...
And it just punches straight
just
through.
Just go straight through, yeah. And you just see so much blood and it's, yeah.
It's what everyone wants.
And it's in a cage as well, which is really good because, you know, a lot of Muay Thai, you can use the ropes...
To evade.
Whereas in the cage, you can't, you know, you're trapped there, so...
And then you did Karate Kombat, which has the coolest, like, arena of all time, and you are, like, the first owner of the first ever spinning calf kick I've ever seen in my life.
Yes, yeah.
Was that planned, or is that just where it landed?
Actually, it was planned. We were warming up a little bit because I could see the guy was sort of slightly... I wanted to do the spinning kick, but to the head, and then as I was kind of warming up doing the spinning kicks to the head, I thought if he like sort of inches back a little bit, he's right open to that low calf kick.
Yeah, that was so good. It
was so flush, but the problem was then he trapped my leg as I was trying to grab.
Yeah, it was a bit of a war, wasn't it? It was pretty good.
He was tough, man. He was a little nugget. He did not cut weight at all for the fight, and
so he would have been nice and fresh.
Yeah, he was nice and fresh, but he was still like fucking jacked. I don't know if you saw him.
Yeah, he was big boy.
He was a little bit shorter than me, but he was a fucking unit.
They got like, and then did you go to an extra round? I don't understand. I don't understand how Karate Kombat works.
Well, I mean, not too many people do, bro. To be honest, I don't even know. So there's like, you have. It's the same with Glory. You have 3 rounds, but if the majority of the judges decide that they want an extra round, they tick a little box.
Okay.
And then, so yeah, it's not
That's not a bad format.
Well, I actually quite like it because I prefer longer. I always now agree to 5-round fights. And obviously the 8-man was 3-round fights, but I prefer 5-round fights because I feel like I have a better gas tank. And every 5-round fight I've had, I just get better each round. Whereas the 3-round fights, like if you start slow, which I've done a couple of times, then you end up losing on points unless you do something spectacular. So, yeah, so I just literally 5 or 6 weeks before that come off a 5-round fight in Melbourne, 3-minute rounds. It was like exactly the same. And so after the 3rd round, they were like, oh, you're going to a 4th. And I was like, fuck yeah, let's go. And I could see my opponent was like absolutely gassed out. So I knew at that moment that it was like, yeah.
So I remember I seen your post the other day. So when you were a kid, you started with karate.
I started with karate.
And then it's funny as that fast forward.
I know.
Like all this time.
There was no like opportunities to do this sort of stuff.
It's a cool little thing, Karate Kombat. If no one's seen it, go on it and suss it out. It's really cool.
Yeah, and they're signing some good talents now, man, as well.
And it's a good avenue for like Wonder Boy and that to go down after the UFC because he'll be able to do that.
Yeah.
You met him.
Yeah,
you met Wonder Boy.
Yeah.
How was he?
He's good, man. He's like typical like.
Imagine he was just a cunt in real person.
Nah,
just like on camera, he's the nicest person ever, and then he's just a prick off camera.
Nah, he was exactly the same as what you see.
Did you meet GSP?
I didn't, and I was spewing about that. I was hoping to meet GSP. Jez, my trainer, loves GSP because everyone does.
He's the GOAT.
But GSP was so Karate Kombat had another show last weekend, just gone. And GSP was there doing what Wonder Boy was doing. Yeah. So
meeting Bas Rutten and having him commentate your fight would be crazy.
Yeah, we did like a little so you get there on the Monday, like a week before you fight basically. And then the 3 days before weigh-in between that and when you arrive, you do all this media sort of stuff, like photo shoots and stuff. All the shows do it. But what they did that was really cool was they had Bas Rutten, Layla, I can't remember what her name is, she was the commentator, not the commentator. She was like the girl that did the post-fight interviews, and Josh as well, who was one of the commentators. They sat down with you for like a 30-minute
interview to get to know what's going on.
Yeah, and it was like just chatting shit with Bas.
That's so
like he
cool.
loved, yeah, so getting to actually meet them outside of the whole,
that would have been cool.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Did you meet Raymond Daniels as well?
He was there, yeah. So
was he fighting?
He fought last weekend,
yeah.
but he came as a special guest to the show that I fought.
He's a freak.
Yeah, he didn't look that good last weekend, but he is very, very good. He's like 40 now, so he's kind of
getting there.
You know, but he's got some. If anyone hasn't seen some of his knockouts,
how old are you?
31.
30. So it's prime.
I'm in my prime man.
Time.
Yeah, I'm in my prime. I've had,
especially for your weight, you usually fight around 70.
Yeah.
Usually about, this is like the prime, and then once you start losing that speed, that's when it's...
Well, yeah, exactly. So the division that I'm in, the 70 sort of kilo division, 68 to 72 range, the guys in that division have the perfect blend of like power and speed.
I always say the reason that the best divisions in combat sports are 145 pounds to 155 pounds is because they have the same speed as the 60 kilo guys,
the bantamweights,
but they have just as much power as the middleweights.
I 100% agree with that.
That's why they're so fun to watch, because they're so technical and explosive. Like 125 pound men, like, well, I don't know what that is in kilos, maybe 55 kilo, yeah. Like Mighty Mouse.
Yeah.
He's so fun to watch. But the reason why he never caught on heaps is because he doesn't have the power to finish.
Devastating knockouts, yeah, exactly.
Although he just put a knee through someone's skull on the weekend.
Yeah.
And retained his title. But
there's that, but I 100% agree that weight is, and that's why those divisions tend to be the most stacked as well.
Yeah.
Because it's like...
most men are that weight.
Around that weight, yeah, exactly. And it's good because you watch guys in my sort of division, we don't tend to gas out as much as the heavyweights. Heavyweights are great to watch for like one round.
If it's a 1 round fight, it's the best fight you've ever seen.
Yeah.
But if it goes on to like a 5th round and they're heavyweights, it's very rare they'll still have like gas in the tank.
Agreed. So it's that kind of division in Karate Combat. They've got a 68 and they've got a 75, but I think what they've just now allowed knees. They've changed the rule set now to allow knees, and I think it won't be long before they
elbows and
it won't be long until there's elbows and like low kicks.
Is that fucking like the pit? Is it hard to navigate?
It is, man. So for anyone that doesn't know, it's kind of like you're fighting in this pit that's...
It's literally a pit of death. It's like Roman shit. Like everyone's up and it's just 4 walls on like a 45 degree
It's about
angle.
45 degrees, yeah. Maybe a little bit steeper. But the worst thing is, like, at the end of each round, you have to run up the wall.
Do you?
Yeah, they say if you don't, then the referee will stop the fight. Because, like, you have to... Because they'll take it as a sign that you're not...
That's punishment,
Yeah, I know. But, I mean, it's good. It feels like you're almost in a cage. Like, it's enclosed in... And then if your opponent's touching the side wall, they're not technically grounded, so you can kick them in the head, you can knee them in the face and stuff. It's not until they're fully grounded that those rules don't apply. So it's kind of like a different rule set. It's really hard to train for unless you've got like a pit. No one has one. I mean, there's a gym in like Florida called Goat Shed that has one.
They'll start popping up. It's starting to gain a lot of traction, Karate Combat.
It's huge,
It's
man.
like bare knuckle fighting. Bare knuckle fighting's gaining a lot of traction as well.
Oh, dude, it's got like millions of followers on, Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. It's crazy how... It's because they spend so much money. Like,
and GSP's promoting it, and like a lot of fun. And it's pretty fun. Like, you just have to sit down and watch one.
Yeah.
And they're all fun. It's just people kicking and punching each other.
Exactly. I mean, what they've done is the right way, I think. Attracting like big promotional talents. Now they've got to get the fighters pool. But like, so on the show I fought on, Gabriel Varga, who is like a legend of kickboxing, Glory, Bellator, 5 times Glory champion, like Bellator champ, like very, very good kickboxer. He's 37 though, so he's kind of, on his way. They've just signed fucking Raymond Daniels, who, same thing, Glory, Bellator. They've signed a couple UFC guys. Bruno Souza, who had 1 or 2 UFC fights. Like these guys, they're starting to get a decent talent pool together. So
Yeah.
I think if you, in the next like 2 or 3 years, it'll really explode.
Yeah,
So,
it's really good. And yes, so and then we were talking because you're also, I don't know if a lot of people know this about you. You're a fucking doctor
yeah, I have a PhD in psychology, clinical
and a
psychology,
first class honors as well.
a first class honors in psychology. Yep.
And
yep.
you got that through, was it you were studying, or while you were doing that, you were studying the epidemiology and
yeah,
like
so,
the problems of gaming?
yeah. Sorry.
No, you're right.
It's fucking sickness again. Yeah, so my doctorate was on the epidemiology or the progression of disease, the prophylaxis and the treatment, courses of treatment for behavioural addictions. So gaming disorder, gambling disorder.
Oh, so it wasn't specifically, it was
the
specific.
focus mainly was on gaming,
Yeah.
but the behavioural addictions cover gaming, gambling, sex addiction,
Anything.
like internet porn addiction, you know, that sort of thing. So anything that is not a substance. But now I work for the University of Adelaide. We have a grant that focuses on substance use disorders.
Yeah, and you work with the WHO, and you're trying to, I was reading about it today, you're trying to like better their criteria.
Yeah. So
Or just see if their criteria is fit for what it's doing.
well, a lot
is
of
it the assist program?
Yeah. So a lot of what we're doing is trying to build capacity. There's a buzzword there for you of primary health. So GPs, nurses, people that you would go to in kind of first line treatment for any health condition, typically to build their capacity to identify people with substance use disorders. Because what happens is people go to primary health care, they go to their GP with problems sleeping or, you know, problems with their back or whatever. And the GP will just try and deal with that, but they don't tend to ask questions about
Why are you having problems?
yeah, well,
lately?
how much are you drinking? Like, what medications are you taking? Are you using cannabis to sleep? That sort of thing.
Do you find that a lot of people get prescribed prescription drugs too early?
Oh, I mean, yes, totally. There's a massive overprescription problem. That's a US problem as well, though.
That's a massive US problem. Opioids are the biggest killer, like fatality rate in all drugs.
Yeah, and it all comes from China, and that's a different discussion. But when we were in Orlando, I mean, it trips me out every time I go to America. It's the same thing. You drive down the highway, and there's billboards for
You're allowed
pharmaceuticals.
to advertise. I think New Zealand and America are the only countries in the world where you're allowed to.
It's
like
honestly,
Pfizer's, all of the.
Yep.
That's another conversation.
Yeah. Well, every billboard there's, you know, pharmaceutical, this, whatever, and then the next billboard is like advertising like for lawyers for suing for medical malpractice and shit like that.
Oh.
Like it's just they've got a system that's
America.
it's just the land of the free, man. You know, so.
But yeah, you were saying so the doctors.
Yeah. So well, what happens is people go to these primary healthcare spaces with underlying issues with drugs or alcohol, and GPs are an aging workforce. So when I was young, very young, we had a family doctor.
Yeah, everyone did. And
That's gone now.
My mum fucking still used to go to this doctor, and I'm like, you have to stop going to him. He has not learnt anything since we were 4 or 5. Like he has no knowledge of any modern medicine.
Well, that was the thing. So when we were young, that was the kind of dominant paradigm. You'd go to a family practice.
They know your life story.
They know your life story.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now it's all corporate, big practices where they bring in doctors to work certain shifts, and it's literally about how quickly can you come in, I give you a diagnosis, send you on your way and see the next patient. Because it's all just about, you know, making money. Anyone that graduates medicine now specializes. That's the bare bones fact of it. So GPs in general are an aging workforce, but that's not to say that they're not needed. But what happens, of course, is with an aging workforce, they carry with them ideas about drugs and alcohol and other stigmatic sort of behaviours. And they think, like, we hear this constantly. We go to GPs and talk to them and they say, well, we don't see those kind of people in our practice. And it's like, well, you do. You know, if you look at the statistics, I mean, 80% of the Australian population drinks. 80% or 78% drinks. And 1 in 11 drinks on a daily basis.
Too much.
You know, so it's like...
Funny you say that today. And I've never been to a bottle-o before it opened. I went to go get just a 6-pack just in case you wanted some.
I'll have one with you.
And so I was waiting outside of Thirsty Camel when it was like 9 o'clock, so they were just opening. As soon as it opened, these people came out from the fucking bushes. I've never seen anything like it. And they were old men. And they had like the bulbous nose, like stereotypical alcoholic.
Yep.
And it just clicked to me. I'm like, you know someone's an alcoholic when they buy an odd number of drinks. Like this bloke, he didn't buy a 6-pack, he bought 7 Jack Daniels.
Yeah.
Because that's obviously all he could afford. And I'm like, fuck. That's such a horrible addiction because it's so readily available. Like,
100%.
Alcohol is such an underrated substance for ruining lives. Like, I know a lot of people on meth and like with cocaine habits and marijuana habits. The worst people I know, this is very broad. This is just my experience. Alcoholism is such a fucking putrid thing.
Oh, mate, you're bang on 100% there. The thing about things like meth is that it's obvious. You know, you can see
very obvious.
It's very obvious. Whereas with alcohol, it takes a long time for it to progress. But
and then you can't stop, but you physically can't.
Oh, well, totally, yeah. I mean, you can have serious, and you can even die from withdrawal from alcohol if you do it improperly, if you're like dependent enough. But the thing is, there's a huge difference between drinking and being dependent on alcohol, you know, and there's a long progression between drinking too much and getting to the point where you're physically dependent. But along the way, you can do so much damage to your body, to your family, to your friends. You know,
fucking horrible
to
for
everything.
You. Well, you got to think like things like if everything in moderation's okay for you. I'm sure you'd know more than me. Like a bit of MDMA or a bit of like it depends what's in it. Of course, like if you can get a pure form of it, it's probably a lot better. But like in America or in other parts of the world, they treat PTSD and a lot of
microdosing,
like with microdosing, hallucinogenics. I think even ketamine.
Yep.
MDMA now they're doing for like PTSD and stuff.
Yep.
No one treats anything with alcohol.
No. Well, they used to, and that was what caused. You know, you used to have a stiff drink to calm your nerves, and that was how it. You know, sort of. I don't know. It's a much more accepted now, but I think we're starting to see a cultural shift away from it. So over COVID, before COVID, there was a lot of drinking. You know, Australians love a drink anyway. But post-COVID, some of this, I was reviewing a paper for one of the addiction journals the other day, and it was really interesting to me because it was completely counterintuitive to what I would have expected. Was that the rate of drinking among Australians, teenagers I'm talking about, has completely diverted. So those teenagers that were drinking frequently daily are still continuing to, but almost every other group have completely abstained from alcohol, which I wouldn't have expected. I would have expected, you know, probably an increase in sort of substance use behaviours. But I think what it signals is that people are starting to recognise the harm and the consequence of excessive alcohol consumption, and it's no longer being kind of accepted as like a, you know, a normal thing, you know, because you can definitely have drinks and be fun and enjoyable, but there's
the point.
There's a total point, yeah.
And when you get to that point and you push past and you're just on autopilot, that's when you start doing damage. Yeah. I mean, like I said, you know, you do physical damage to your liver
long-term drinking. But there's also like, acute damage that you can do with hangovers and stuff, but also like getting behind the wheel of a car and, doing some serious damage, not only to yourself, but someone else potentially. So there's those kind of short-term immediate risks, but there's also the long-term consequences, like the lack of sleep and what that does to you. The thing about alcohol is it helps you, if you drink.
It ruins your REM sleep though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it helps you get to sleep, but it doesn't help you kind of stay asleep.
Yeah, you don't get into that deep, real like REM fucking nice sleep. Because whenever you wake up hungover, you never wake up with a good sleep. You wake up tired.
Groggy as fuck, and you're massively dehydrated as well. We've all done it, but, it's not... If you do that prolonged over, the course of years, every day, or pretty much every day, that lack of sleep, is really, really detrimental to your long-term
I
health.
got prescribed medical cannabis.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
From Alternaleaf.
Okay.
So I've always had, or not always, from my lines of work, like always cooking and stuff, I've had tendinitis and I got a bit of carpal tunnel in my hands.
Yep.
And
too much wanking.
Too much wanking. And always, no, it's horrible. I had to switch arms.
Yeah,
my left shoulder, for some reason, like, I don't know if it's a nerve or something. My arms get numb when I sleep.
Yeah.
And I wake up every couple of hours and I have to fucking shake out my arms. But it's gotten really bad over the last couple of years, and I think it's just because of fucking just cooking and lifestyle and fucking training, just not looking after my body properly.
Yeah.
And I went on to this company, Alternaleaf. They're a medical cannabis company, and you do like phone consults.
Yep.
And you tell them this, and that, and they say it's so fucking strange that this is a thing in Australia. Like they're like, okay, and they send you you talk to a doctor. And then they sent me 20 grams of dry leaf marijuana and like 40 mils of CBD oil.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. And I got a card. I can take it on a plane.
Carry it around. Yeah. Well, so that's the thing in the US as well. They have like dispensaries, and in some jurisdictions,
recreational though, isn't it?
Well, in some places it's legalized, but in some places it's not. Like Vegas, it's not, and you get sentenced to life in prison, sort of thing. Whereas if you go
in Vegas, it's not legal.
Yeah, in Nevada.
In Vegas.
In Nevada,
really?
It's not legal. Yeah, so you want to avoid
prostitution's legal.
I know, it's fucking crazy, man. The US is an absolute trip, bro. But yeah, like in places like California and Orlando, I think, or not San Francisco, you can go to dispensaries and get it, like no trouble. But yeah, it's completely happening over here. But the other thing that's an issue now is vaping as well.
I was talking about it yesterday because I was trying to get off cigarettes because I smoke.
Yeah.
But I've been trying to quit on and off for a while. So I was like, fuck it, I'll just try vaping. I found myself vaping 6 times as much as I would be smoking. Yeah. And I found that, like, because even though I smoke, obviously my lungs are damaged, but at the gym I don't feel it. Like I got pretty good cardio.
Got a baseline level. Yeah.
But when I was vaping, I was like, fuck, there's like, I was struggling really hard. And because you're just pumping it, and you see these 15-year-old kids and shit like vaping.
Well, that's the issue. I mean, you've touched on the major issue is that vaping for a harm reduction thing for like an existing smoker is a useful tool because it can help you like cut out all the harmful.
But using it as an entry level fucking 14-year-olds.
Exactly.
Because that's what it's made for. It's fruity flavours. It's like fucking cereal.
Exactly. So it's like, I mean, you can't ban it, but you have to be aware that while companies are saying that it's, a great tool to help you stop smoking, in actual fact, it's becoming a gateway.
Oh, 100%.
To tobacco, to actual tobacco smoking.
Because then those kids are going to go out one night. No one's going to have a vape, but someone's going to have a cigarette. Yep. And then that's where it fucking starts. Smoking is, I don't know if you've done many studies on smoking. I've taken a lot of like recreational drugs in my life. And there is nothing that even compares to the addiction you have with smoking.
Yeah, well, smoking is the most difficult. Nicotine is the most difficult drug to quit from.
It's so hard.
People often have 6 or 7 attempts to quit from nicotine. It's very rare that people do it.
It's so hard because it's damaging to people around you. Like I find when I try and stop smoking, my aggression level is times 50.
Much more agitated and stuff. Yeah, totally, man. So
to the point where people be like, just have a cigarette. Like, just calm down.
And it's like, it's accessible and as well, and it's kind of, you know...
It's expensive though. It's so expensive. It's not viable.
Exactly. Same with alcohol. Is like the government's try and tax the fuck out of it to curb the problem. That doesn't really curb the problem.
Just makes people broke.
And the people who can't afford it the most, you know, the people who are marginalised the most, that don't have the ability to quit, you know, to try other forms of therapy or whatever, don't have the social supports. Because a lot of quitting comes down to social support. Whether it's alcohol, whether it's, you know, other drugs or whatever.
It's obviously a lot harder to quit. Like if you're a meth addict and all of your friends smoke meth, you need to cut off. The first thing you need to do is cut off the friend group.
Totally, yeah. And I mean, meth's one of those things that, you know, you can very, very quickly do some serious social harm and lose all of your support. Meth is one of those drugs that just literally it's the devil. And you know, the amount of stories you hear of people whose families are just exasperated by.
You see it everywhere. The thing is, like you said, it's so visible. They're like fucking vampires.
Yeah, they come out of nowhere as well. You know, you were saying you saw those people in the bottle. On Thursday mornings I drive down to the gym. You're
up north as well, aren't you?
I'm in Paynham, so it's like just kind
of
a bit out of the city. But my mate's got a gym in Somerton Park, so I kind of drive through and down Green Hill Road early in the mornings on Thursdays. And some mornings will start at 4, so I'll be up at 3 and I'll drive down there. And you notice at like 3 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday,
they're
sometimes
scattering around.
Yeah, there's just a couple of them just pop out of the bushes and crossing, you know, and you can see them a mile away. They're just like aimlessly walking on the road, and it's fucking sad. But it's like
yesterday, but this bloke, I'm not sure if you're familiar with these areas. There's a suburb called O'Sullivan's Beach.
Mm-hmm.
This bloke,
I heard,
This bloke's gone on a crack bender, gone into an IGA. Like one of my staff members goes to that IGA all the time. This old lady, Bronnie, always goes there, and she's mates with the owner, this Asian man called
guy,
Bruce.
Yeah,
and this bloke's gone in, said, "Give me your keys to this old man," and he's refused to give his keys. So he's stabbed him in the back a couple times.
Fucking hell.
And while he's gotten stabbed, he's still refusing to give his fucking keys up. So the Asian man's walked to Bruce, has walked around, grabbed the keys from him, and like thrown them at the bloke, like, just take the car.
Yeah.
Like, it's not worth it, mate. Just take the car. So he's driven off, smashed into another car, and then then he stole another car. Then road spikes got deployed like 15 metres from my house.
Fuck.
Yeah, and I woke up in the morning. I fucking wish I woke up earlier. I was supposed to go to work earlier, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Because I would have seen it.
Yeah.
But I went out and there was fucking like 30 cop cars, and I was like, fucking crackheads. Like, it's always crackheads.
They're always at it.
But they're everywhere.
Yeah.
You can't stop it. It's like an apocalypse.
Like zombies, man.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's crazy.
Oh, totally, man.
It's terrifying.
Do you get
sometimes.
helicopters around here? Police choppers?
Yeah, every now and then. The South's not as bad as people say it is. Like, people think the South is scummy as fuck. It's not too bad. There's horrible pockets, but there's horrible pockets everywhere.
I only say that because we get fucking police. I'm not in a bad area. We're just
Paynham's obviously a lot busy. There's a lot more ethnic groups up there as well.
Oh, mate, totally. Yeah, and it's kind of the gateway then out to like the north as well. So... yeah, we get, and it's right on the foothills, so we get all police choppers.
We get them every now and then.
It's hectic, man. Like I can't sleep. Wakes me up. I'm like, what the fuck? And then you find out they're just doing a training exercise.
Oh,
and you're like, can you do that elsewhere, please?
Yeah,
like, it's so fucking loud. But yeah, no, fucking the crackies, man. Sometimes, I shouldn't say that. That's a derogatory term, but you know, everyone makes their choices, but yeah, sometimes...
that'd be the hardest thing. You have to be really you have to be very, well, I don't even know what the word would be. You can't be too...
yeah, you have to be sensitive.
Professional.
Yeah, totally, man.
Professional.
Totally. And look, at the end of the day, like, addiction
It's horrible.
It's horrible.
And there's always reasons for.
Exactly. You know, it doesn't happen in isolation, and, you know, you need to be, and everyone has like predisposing factors and traumas and things in there.
Have you ever had any form of addiction?
I've never had personally, no, but
It comes down to personality, though.
I think
a lot of people have addictive. I have addictive personality in endeavors.
Yeah.
But not.
You get obsessed with.
Not to your like kind of level where you're like a really high level athlete and you're a very accomplished doctor. I have like it's almost like a bit of autism. I have like I get really fixated.
Like an Asperger's.
I get really fixated on like certain topics for months at a time, and it'll consume me.
Well, it sounds like ADHD, to be honest, bro.
Oh, that's what my missus says. I have ADHD.
Well, you sounds like you do.
Yeah, but
no. I mean, unfortunately, my work is a lot. I'm not consumer facing, so we don't actually deal a lot of the time with people with substance use disorders. We deal more with the frontline workforce. We're training the specialists, training the GPs, training the allied health guys like physios, psychologists, those kinds of people to identify and respond early, rather than letting the problems get to the point where people are walking around on Green Hill Road at 3:00 in the morning, yelling and screaming. Identifying, because often those people 5 years ago were visiting GPs saying, I'm having trouble sleeping, or, for example, asking for sick certificates, on a Monday or something. And if you're a GP and it's like they're asking for a sick certificate on a Monday and it's the third Monday in a row that you've seen them, maybe ask them about their, other lifestyle, what's actually going on.
What happened when you were a kid? Like, is it like not that, but like, is that a lot of it fucking stems from that?
Exactly. And look, there's, when you go to a doctor, they might ask you. Generally, they'll ask you if it's a first consultation. They'll generally ask you if you're a smoker, because that's pretty standard. Some might ask you whether or not you drink a little bit, but they don't kind of quantify how much. But very rarely, if ever, certainly in my experience anyway, do they ask you, do you smoke cannabis? Do you take MDMA or whatever? They don't ask about illicit drugs because it's kind of taboo. It's like, well, I don't want to know, because what I've found, or what we've found in our work, is that GPs and any health professionals don't ask those questions because they don't tend to know how to deal with the answers. Like if you turned around and said, yeah, I smoke weed every night to get to sleep.
And I'd take 4 or 5 caps on a Friday night.
I have 6 codeine to sleep before bed. They'll be like, well, don't do that. They don't have kind of harm reduction advice. So we give them the tools to be able to ask the questions and teach them how to deal with the responses. And we've found that kind of model helps, but the GPs have to be willing in the first place. I keep saying GPs, it's not just GPs, it's also nurses and other people, but it's primarily the primary health workforce. But we've found that there's still that kind of stigma around alcohol and other drugs. And so you have to kind of break that down slowly, chip away at it. The other one is mental health.
That's a big one now.
Huge comorbidity overlap, I guess, between mental health and substance use disorders, because people often self-medicate when they've got mental health conditions.
Especially untreated ones.
Exactly, and undiagnosed, untreated, because they know that there's a problem, but everyone around them saying, you just need to cheer up, or, whatever it is, or they don't have the resources, or they live too far away, or whatever. And it's easier just to drink, or it's easier just to smoke weed and forget about it, or, take pain. Brilliant example is pain. People take, if you try and go to a specialist mental health service or a specialist pain clinic, for example, it might take you 2 years before you can actually get in to see someone. And in the meantime, there is so much that people can do, damage to their bodies wise, by taking drugs and alcohol, because it does temporarily at least mask that pain.
Do you think the whole mental health thing though has been, I don't know how I'd put it, but do you think it kind of diminishes the importance of mental health for so many people claiming they have mental health problems?
I think that goes without saying, to be honest. I mean, I think it's the same.
Because I think the same thing sometimes when people are like, oh, I have depression. It's like, no, but you don't.
Yeah.
Like, you don't. Because it's... I was talking about this previously on a podcast with someone. He actually went through real mental health problems.
Yeah.
And it's disgusting for someone just to claim that they have depression.
Yeah.
Even though they've just had a fucking rough week or a rough day, and but they egg on it. So I think a lot of people, the people that would be like, just cheer up, a lot of them are just desensitized to it, maybe.
I think so. And I think,
which makes it worse.
Things like what's happening with Amber Heard and stuff like that. You know, when there's that kind of red, what do you call it? Like the boy who cried wolf or whatever. Yeah. When that sort of stuff happens, it obviously takes away from real people who have real problems. But I think at the end of the day, there is a lot of, I think the stats say 1 in 2 people will have a serious mental health episode in their life, whether that's like chronic depression or like, you know, an acute psychosis or something.
That's a
real... 1 in 2, yeah.
No shit.
So, you know, it's so common. Now, some people are able to...
push through.
Yeah, some people just naturally have the support networks, the temperament, the kind of emotion regulation capacity to be able to kind of just, you know, get through it, and it doesn't hurt them as much. Some people feel it a lot more acutely. But yeah, 1 in 2 people will have some sort of mental health condition. And it doesn't, you know, like I say, it doesn't have to be a chronic depression that lasts 30 years. You know, it might only be
a stint.
Or it might be like a postnatal depression sort of thing where, you know, which is, we see that pretty commonly, but they resolve very frequently. So I think having an awareness of how common it is important. But yes, I definitely do think that, like anything, there are people out there that will capitalize on things for an easy ride.
That's just the fucking way it is today, though.
Honestly,
people capitalize on anything. You can say that about anything, really.
Well, you look at people that set up GoFundMe charities, you know, on the back of disasters. Like, people will take advantage.
Opportunists.
Exactly. And they'll find an opportunity to make some money or to get an easy ride, and they'll take it. But that doesn't take away from the fact that people actually have real issues.
When you were studying the epidemiology of like the negative effects of like obsessive gaming and all this, did you find that gaming in kids, what did you find that kind of causes?
It's the same with...
Because I used to avidly game. I still do. Not obviously, I'm a fucking adult now. Don't have time to sit down, and I don't have time to sit down and play games for 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
But I used to play a shit ton when I was a kid, and I felt like it almost gave me, I don't know, like more like almost for reflexes. Like when you're a kid, like to a certain point, though, I was never addicted to it. I wouldn't sit down and play for like 100 hours a week and not get off.
Yeah.
But I feel like gaming for kids can also be beneficial in moderation, like anything.
100%. So the thing about gaming is that it's a skill-based endeavor a lot of the time, whereas gambling is not skill-based. By definition, it's chance. It's based on luck. But there's a huge convergence between gaming and gambling now with loot boxes and microtransactions. That's
the thing, because they're building kids up to gamble. So
exactly. So
I fucking love a punt. Like I used to love I love playing poker, any form of game. Like I love chucking a couple $100 on a fight just to make it more interesting.
Yep.
But like when you see in like a Call of Duty game or like a Fortnite game where kids are spending fucking hundreds of dollars on these skins and like loot boxes where it's chance based.
It's completely chance based. But the thing is, it's because it's not regulated as gambling, the developers have control over the odds of which you will. And so some, like for example, FIFA Ultimate Team.
That's the worst brand for it. Yeah, EA is the worst for it.
What they do is if you are prone to spending money on these things, they'll make it more likely that you get better players in your card pack. And then all of a sudden, you've got a better team. And so you start winning games and you're more likely to spend. Whereas if you're not spending much at all, they'll give you shit players. So you have to buy another pack. Money. Yeah, and they suck you in that.
I believe it's illegal in Germany now.
It is now. It's completely...
Germany?
Yeah, Belgium. Belgium have banned it. But yeah, getting back to the thing about gaming disorder in kids, it's much more common in adolescents and much more common in males. Although gamers now are completely gender diverse. You know, it used to be young boys played video games.
Yeah.
Now it's pretty much
everyone,
adults. You know, I mean, I know older women play mobile casino games and things
so
like
you
that.
count those as games too. Like my missus has this. I play this game. My missus used to play a lot of games.
Yeah.
But there's this game on the phone called Toon Blast, and I used to play it, but I stopped. But she
like Candy Crush sort of thing.
Yeah, she fucking smashed it. But it was getting to the point where I was like, I don't have lives.
Yeah.
$1.99 for 5 lives. It's
How it
fucking
sucks you in, man.
easy.
Yeah.
They're so good at doing it because those mobile games are the fucking worst for it.
Yeah.
Those mobile games will get you. Like, they'll get you.
So there's a guy called Nick Yee who's a psychologist from somewhere in the United States, and he worked with game developers on designing games to be completely immersive, you know, in terms of how do we create a more seamless experience so you get sucked in.
And then they hit you.
And this has been going on for years and years and years, and his research has he was then like hired by game developers to make their games more. It wasn't back then about how can we make money off these people, but it was like, how can we make these games more realistic and entertaining and engaging?
Yeah, well,
and that's where it starts, you know, and it progresses. But I guess the point with what I was saying with gamers is that it's the same with substance use disorders. It's the same with like obsessive compulsive type conditions. There generally is an underlying issue, whether it's eating disorders is another great one. Whether there's an underlying issue about self-esteem or whatever that the person has, and they've found that gaming or eating or taking drugs or whatever alleviates that underlying self-esteem or temporarily masks the pain or whatever.
It gives you like a rush of endorphins in your fucking
brain.
And that's what gaming is at the end of the day. It's just a rush of endorphins. Like if you're playing a really good game, you're just getting a constant rush.
Yep. And then it becomes, but this is where the behavioral addiction part comes in, because it becomes then habitual behavioral, like almost like reflexes. You wake up in the morning, first thing you do is, you know, start playing. But what happens, the crucial thing about gaming disorder is that typically it happens in adolescents, males. Typically it happens when there has been a breakdown in the parents' relationship.
Yeah, right.
And they separate. Maybe mum gets a new boyfriend or dad gets a new girlfriend. that kind of nurturing environment vanishes.
It's a very stereotypical way.
And it happens. It's so common that often one of the best ways to treat gaming disorder is with like family therapy. Because that's where a lot of the issues come from, is that kids are then left to cope with whatever they don't even recognize that they're feeling, and gaming helps them kind of escape because it's accessible, it's, you know, it's easy, and it's seen as harmless. And by and large it is. Gaming disorder only exists in, same with substance use disorders, like gambling disorder, you know, 1 to 3% of the population.
If you're say you're a 30-year-old man and you're still living at home and like your life's not going how you envisioned it would go, and you're really good at this fucking game, you can go onto this game and you can escape your reality for 10 hours. You
see that they create offline identities for themselves. This is one of the more common things about like MMORPG type games.
That's what I'm referring to mostly. Like MMORPGs, like Warcraft, like games like that, League of Legends, where you got to put fucking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of hours into those games to get good.
And your identity then becomes about your
character
and your leaderboard status, and all of a sudden you become renowned among your community.
You're the fucking man.
But really, like what? You know, unless you make now, of course, you can make money from it in esports. So
it's very rare, though. Like,
totally.
It's like anything. Like a lot of people you can make decent money. Like, not every streamer is going to make multi-millions of dollars. I was talking to on my third or fourth podcast, I messaged this bloke I watch on YouTube. He has a couple million subscribers. He's a food YouTuber. He's a chef. And I did a Zoom call with him, and because I didn't expect him to fucking reply.
Yeah.
But he replied, and I was like, oh fuck, now I've got to go buy a webcam and figure out how to record this.
Actually do it properly. Yeah.
And he we were talking, and he's like, I make X amount of dollars. Like, he makes like 90,000 Australian a year. That's a comfortable living. Like, not every street, so you can make money, but if you would, you have to be. It's a mixture of luck. Like, it's not all skill.
No, totally. Yeah. So there's a perception from gamers or whatever that it is skill based, but games often have these mechanics where it's called like rubber banding, where like if it's too hard, the game will reduce the difficulty automatically, and you don't notice that it's happening. You just think you're getting better at the game. It's not. It's the game's making it. This is one of those things that Nick Gear was famous for. It was just like...
Yeah, I watched a video on rubber banding like maybe a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, because there's a mechanic in games that if you say you die 6 times in a row, they'll slightly decrease by fractions. They'll slowly decrease.
Imperceptible, you don't notice it, but all of a sudden you beat the level and you think, oh, fuck.
And you get that massive rush. Yeah.
How good am I? And then you keep playing and maybe you start spending money because of that, And
there's like in competitive games now, like Call of Duty and stuff, there's things called skill-based matchmaking, which are really strong. So they're a bit harder now. Like, because I remember when I was younger, you could play with like anyone, and if you were good, you just dominate. You'd dominate, but now it's but it's rage inducing, which is also another addictive thing. Yeah, like a lot of people get addicted to rage.
Oh, mate, 100%. And any kind of strong emotions, I think, because they,
Would you find that you're addicted to fighting?
I wouldn't say I'm addicted. I would say I'm obsessed. Yeah, I mean, well, where's the line?
Do you get scared still?
The thing I get scared about is my family seeing me get hurt. I don't care about getting hurt. I've been hurt that many times. You push through. It's the kind of potential for mum to see me sparked out cold. Yeah. That worries me. But that said, I've done this since I was 7 years old, I mean, not competitive fighting, but martial arts. Like, I've been doing it since I was 7. Like, it's all I know. It's where I feel comfortable. Like, everything, I view the world through a lens of fighting, combat, competitive kind of.
Have you been knocked out before?
Not in training.
In a fight?
In training I have, yeah.
But not in a fight?
Not in a fight, no. Because the goal, exactly. the goal is, I've always maintained that the goal is to not get hit. Some people like to just grit and fucking trade, and they love a scrap.
You treat it as more of like an athleticism.
Yeah, I'm completely the opposite. I'm like, all right, if I can have a fight where my opponent doesn't even touch me, that's a perfect fight. If I can be the one.
Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Fucking perfect. He's left the fucking sport, no brain damage.
Well, that's when we were talking
before, I was like, if you started studying CTE, do you reckon you'd fight?
Well, this is the thing. Like, I've said that I don't want to, simply because, it'll probably make me start to question. But I've also said that if I do start, I'm 31. If I get to like 35, 36, and my reaction time starts slowing down, and I start getting sucked into those kind of brawling matches. I mean, on the 8.
You're very coherent though. Like you use your brain for work every day, so that might also help.
I think so, and I'm also very healthy in my lifestyle. I mean, my partner would probably disagree, but I mean, I'm very healthy. I try and get 8 hours sleep every night. If that means going to bed at 8 o'clock, I'll go to bed at 8 o'clock if I have to wake up at 4. And I drink between fights. Like, now I'm having a beer, but I don't
binge.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's obviously
you need a night every now and then.
But I mean, I out of the 52 weeks in a year, I drink maybe 4 of those weeks. And it's mostly over Christmas. You know what I mean? And I don't do drugs. I generally don't eat that shitty food, but obviously sometimes I do. But it's like now that I have a kid as well, I have reasons to try and be as healthy as I can.
How old's your child?
He's about 20 months old.
20 months.
Yeah.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah,
So still fresh.
He was 18 months in July, so whatever that is now.
Yeah, nice.
19, 20, yeah.
Did that change? Does that change your fighting?
It did. It completely changed my outlook. It completely changed, firstly, the way I had to approach training.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, beforehand, I could, if I went to bed a bit later, I could wake up a bit later.
No,
but when you got a kid, you wake up when they're up. Like, it's as simple as that. So it means I have to go to bed earlier. It means, I'm always sick at the moment. Like,
yeah, that's a thing with fucking parents, eh? I don't have kids, but every fucking parent I know, they're always sick.
Oh, bro.
They're just little fucking germ factories.
They are,
they?
man. It was so good when he was young. Like, he never got sick, and then he started childcare on his first birthday or the day after or whatever, and that was at the start of this year. And I've never been so sick in my life, just constantly sick.
Fucking all my mates with kids, they're always sick. I never get sick.
And you know what? He gets really sick and then bounces back 2 days later. But I'm just sick for the whole week. Like, it's just...
When COVID started, this is a fun one. This is a fun one.
Hit me with it.
So when COVID started, did you continue work?
Yeah.
So what's your thought on how, not the virus, what's your thought on how they went about it?
Well, I think, so here's the thing. I work in public health. So I definitely think that there's a huge disconnect between what medical specialists, epidemiologists, people who study this sort of stuff see the disease as, and everyday people see the disease as. I think there's no question. I also think that from a public health perspective, the focus is on protecting the vulnerable, the elderly, young people, that kind of thing. And when there's an unknown, like COVID was at the start, there was a tendency to be more cautious than, as it turns out, was necessary. Now, that said, I think protracted lockdowns are dumb.
Do you find that because of those lockdowns, people are because there was zero contact with people for such a prolonged time, people are more susceptible to getting sick right now?
Oh, I think without question.
Because the flu at the moment's fucking crazy.
I think you're 100% right, yeah, without question.
And depression and like all the...
Yeah, so, I mean, that was the thing. Like I said earlier, I mentioned I was reviewing that paper about substance use. My impression has always been that mental health and suicide rates and things like that have increased because of, or at the same time as people have been locked down. I don't know whether that's true anymore, but there are definitely acute cases where it is true. I think at the margins, it's certainly made it worse for people. But I think we underestimate how resilient pretty much the majority of people are.
Do you dip your toes in a conspiracy?
I'll dabble in a conspiracy.
You do dip your toes in it?
No,
yeah, at first I was like, fuck, but there's just so much money to gain.
Yeah, I mean,
there's so much in vaccines. I'm not saying the vaccine doesn't work. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. But if it was my choice, I wouldn't have got it. But I don't get any vaccine.
Yeah,
because I don't care. I just think my body will do its thing.
Well, that's the way to go about it. I had to travel for work. And
that's the thing. You had to get it. So
I
got the first two because I wanted to travel.
Me too.
And then they fucking got rid of all the rules. So I'm like, that's annoying.
Yeah. Well, I got the first two in order to travel, and I was able to travel no problem. Then they started wanting a third, but they said it was optional. I didn't get the third.
Oh, so you don't have to get the third?
No, you don't have to get the third. If you've had the first two, which are like, if you've had Pfizer or
a lot of people left their jobs in the medical field, didn't they?
Yeah, and like cops and stuff like that. A lot of police, and now there's like what do you call it? Not Royal Commission. There's a class action.
A class action lawsuit.
Yeah. For like police force and, for example, Qantas, they sacked like 7,000 staff or something. And now they're
what a waste.
Bro, Qantas is an absolute fucking shit show now. You can't like. I've been on.
If they made you get the third one, would you have stayed? If they force it upon you? It's hard to say.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, I believe in the vaccine technology in general. So I never saw it as a huge issue.
I don't find the vaccine to be the issue. I find more like the lies.
Incursion on freedom.
Just the fucking lies.
Yeah.
Like, stop lying.
Well, that's the thing.
They think people are fucking stupid because they don't, the people that make the decisions don't understand that normal civilians have the internet now.
Yeah.
Like, we can just look it up.
Well, I mean, look at now I'm going to start dabbling conspiracies, but look at like where the virus originated. You know,
in a lab,
100 meters down the road.
But they think that you're stupid. They fucking but don't lie. Just don't lie.
Exactly. Put the facts on the table and say. And you know what? If they
We
turned
fucked
around
up.
and said, "Look, we fucked up. Let's contain this," I think people would be a lot more. You know, obviously there'd be people that are, carrying on.
And now we got to worry about 2 gay guys in Eastern Europe that had sex at a rave on methamphetamine, and now there's monkeypox. Like, is that where it came from? Because that's the story. That's what they're saying.
Oh, fuck's sake, yeah. Well, I mean, monkeypox is one of those things that...
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Is it a thing?
It's a real thing, but I mean, it's
I'm not worried about it.
No, you shouldn't be. I mean, it's not.
I remember saying that about COVID too when I first heard about it, because it's like I would love to see the news articles.
The early ones.
Because I remember on the radio, and it was like a zombie fucking movie. They would talk, I was on like SAFM, and they're like, China, mate, and I'd like scramble it to the next station. And then I'm like, nah. And then my sister's like, this COVID thing's pretty fucked, eh? Because my brother-in-law, he's a fisherman. He owns 13 or 14 boats.
Yeah, right.
And he's got a massive shark license, and he exports crayfish to China.
Oh, right.
The first thing they stopped doing was export, and he's like, this is not good. And I was like, mate, it's just fucking like nothing. Yeah. It's not going to hit Australia. And then fast forward 2 months, everything's closed, like everything. We didn't close, fortunately, but it was just eerie. Like, you'd go out onto the road and it'd be like something out of a zombie movie.
What did it for me? The worst part about the whole lockdown experience for me was like the persistent masks and people looking at you sideways if you're walking around without a mask,
like a fucking weirdo.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you? I see. You obviously would have like some form of deviated septum.
I do have a deviated septum.
So you breathe. You're a mouth breather.
I'm a mouth breather.
I'm 100% a mouth breather. I can I can't breathe through my nose.
Yeah.
And when people don't understand, when you wear a mask, you got like 2 minutes of air.
Yeah.
And so I'm always like this, and I'm like, what's the fucking point?
Yeah.
Like, what's the point? It doesn't make sense. Like, just the little nuances of how they went about it.
Well, what I think the problem is that it gets back down to people making decisions who are just figureheads who don't actually know what the fuck they're talking about. And then they just spout bullshit. Like Biden, for example, saying that you can't catch COVID if you had a mask. Look, that's obviously not the truth, But why say that?
And they were saying, originally they were saying that the vaccine would stop you from catching COVID.
Yeah, exactly.
And they fucked up there too.
Yeah.
Just say it will reduce the risk of you getting sick, even though you're probably not going to get fucking sick unless you're like compromised in some other way.
Exactly. I mean, and obviously there's the benefit of hindsight looking back, but if they came out and said this vaccine will not stop transmission, but it will prevent, serious illness and infection in the population of those that are aged sort of 50 and above. If you're young and fit and otherwise healthy, it's up to you whether or not.
That's why I honestly think they should fucking change the whole structure of politics. It should the age limit for politics should be 40 years old. Yeah. You should it should be 30 to 40. You should anything older.
Well, I think you see, like in the US, you've got aging, senators and
Biden's ready to fucking die. Well, he doesn't know where he is.
I know, and again, he's just a figurehead. The people behind him that are making decisions are equally the same. But you've got all these senators and people like that are like well into their 70s and 80s, and they're making decisions of the life course trajectories of people that are in their teens, and you need that kind of fair and equal representation. That's why people like AOC, who's obviously a very abrasive and I think just shown herself.
The thing with politics have become like a reality show.
Oh, it's totally reality show now.
It's all fake.
It's
like,
all, yeah, exactly. It's all that populism sort of just who's the... But I think the point is the interests of people who are 80, like in America when they had the GFC in 2008, the senators decided to bail out the banks because they had all their pensions and their life savings tied up in their 401ks or their super accounts.
I don't understand the 401k.
401k is like a superannuation fund, basically.
But do they only get 401,000?
No. It's called a 401k. It's not about 401,000. It's called 401k because that's just a clause number or something like that.
Oh, I've always like in movies. I'm always like, so do Americans just sign up to work and then when they turn a certain age, they get 401k? I was like,
where's the extra one? But you know, they bailed out the big banks because in order to do that, if they didn't do that, if they let the economy just destroy itself, which it needed to do because house prices were so inflated.
Like now in Australia now, the economy needs to fucking go to shit because I'm looking for a farm and I want to buy a farm and I can't afford it right now. Mm-hmm. So I really need the economy to tank. I want the economy just to go cunt up.
Well, you and me both, bro. But
some people need to lose some houses.
Well, this is the problem: is that you go to an auction now. And young people like you or me would go to an auction and try and buy a house, and you're competing with developers from China and India and stuff like that, who have so much money, and what they're trying to do is buy up the property, subdivide as small
into fucking 300 square meter blocks. That's like this house of 5 there was 5 acres in McLaren Vale I was looking at. It was up for 800,000. It was 74 Caffrey Street, McLaren Vale. It was like 5 acres, and it was shit 5 acres. It was just flat land, no rolling hills, no anything, and we're going, having a look. I was like, fuck, I might put like 900, 950. We didn't go to the auction because I thought, in my head, I'm like, it's going to sell for more because some fucking idiot is going to come and ruin it. That property sold $1 million over the asking price. Yeah. It sold for $1.8 million or something. And the cunt wasn't even there.
Yeah.
And then I was talking to the agent recently, a couple months ago. He's like, do you know the funny thing about that? The bloke won't even live there. He bought it as a little holiday house for when they're in Adelaide.
Yeah.
And it's like...
That's what you're competing against.
But they're fucking it up for everyone. Like, people like me just want to go fucking buy something. And you got people who won't even live in the houses offering 500,000, $1 million more than the worth.
Yeah. Over 100% above the asking price. So, but here's the thing. Now they've put up interest rates, I think, about...
I think mine's at like almost 4% at the moment.
It's going up, and they're going to probably put it up another couple of percent probably throughout the rest of the year. But what they want to do is put it up as quickly as they can so they can start bringing it back down again. Because while they're putting rates
up... They need people to start losing houses.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Like they do.
They need to deflate the bubble, and they need people to go, oh, shit. You know, the people that have millions of dollars that need to put it in something... What they want is for those people to go, oh, property's not a great place to put it now. I'll go put it in, the stock market or whatever. And so that capital flees from the real estate market. But at the end of the day, house prices haven't come down. They've plateaued. Maybe you could argue that they've plateaued, but they haven't come down.
Over here, like in Morphett Vale and like these areas, houses have doubled.
Yeah.
I got my house evaluated the other day, and I almost punched him in the head. I was like, stop lying.
Yeah.
Like, it's not worth that.
Yeah.
I would never pay that for this. Like, ever.
Yeah.
And it's fucking crazy. It's because of, like, people from Victoria or New South Wales. If you're within an hour of the city, you're paying $1 million for an apartment.
Yeah.
In Adelaide, you can buy a house here for 500, 600 grand. You're 10 minutes from the best beaches in Australia.
Yeah.
And you're 25 minutes from the city.
Yeah.
And that's every suburb.
Yeah.
Like, every suburb here is 10 minutes from a beach.
Yeah.
And 5 minutes from the city.
It's amazing that Adelaide's house prices haven't
done this earlier.
Yeah. I think, and you just, like, you look at Sydney and Melbourne, like, absolute ramshackle houses.
Jungle.
Selling for millions just because they're an hour from the city, and it's like, fuck, we've got such uncut gems here.
Like, well, I'm right in between. Like, from Payneham, it'll take you 45 minutes to drive to McLaren Vale, and then you're in the wine country.
Yep.
It'll take you bit under 20 minutes to drive to Glenelg.
Yep.
You're fucking. I don't know how close you are to the Barossa. You may be like an hour from the Barossa Valley.
Just about an hour. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So you work with the WHO.
Well, so
I could pose this as like a Fauci representative.
Yeah. So me and Fauci, we get along.
His mates.
No, so when I started my employment at the university, we had a grant. Grant was basically the Australian government Department of Health gave us, my lab, a whole bunch of money, and our lab collaborated with the World Health Organization.
And that was with the assist program, and that's to update their criteria, kind of in like a real simple way.
So simple terms here. The assist is a screening tool, so it identifies risk of harm for substance use disorders. It stands for the Alcohol, Smoking, and Substance Involvement Screening.
I practiced that fucking 10 minutes before you came.
There you go. They love an acronym when it comes to these sorts of things. But the assist, that's what it does. And it identifies, it asks a series of questions related to every single drug. There's 9 drugs, but classes of drugs as well. And it asks you based on the DSM or the ICD criteria for substance use disorders. So it asks you not how much you're drinking, but how often, because frequency of use is a symbol of dependence or an indicator of dependence. It asks about whether or not you're experiencing harm in other areas. It asks about whether other people have raised concern about your use. It asks about whether you've missed appointments, like all of these things that are indicators of probable problems. So it's a screening tool designed for universal settings to identify people that may need treatment. Because a lot of the screening tools at the moment, for example, the audit, which is the Alcohol Use Disorders Identification Test, which is the most common screening tool, it asks about frequency and quantity, but it's only for alcohol. It doesn't do other drugs, and there's other drugs as well. But if a GP or someone wanted to ask you about, your global substance use, they would need to ask you different questions based on different instruments. There's obviously different instruments for indigenous settings and things like that.
I was seeing that you were also trying to, I don't know if I'm saying it right. Are you trying to kind of translate it to...
So we're in the process now of... So let me just finish. The Assist is a World Health Organization developed and endorsed tool.
Yeah.
So we go around, we teach GPs and nurses and psychologists and whoever to use it and why they should use it. But the importance of the Assist is it also connects to a brief intervention. So based on the person's level of risk, if they're low risk, you can just sort of send them on their merry way, tell them, keep doing what you're doing. If you're at the high risk, the Assist connects as a referral link to a specialist service. And the benefit of that is that people don't, because what happens in specialist services is people are getting referred for having smoked one thing of cannabis 6 months ago, and the GP doesn't know how to deal with it, so they'll send you to a specialist, and then the specialist is like, why the fuck am I treating you for cannabis use disorder when you smoked a bong in high school? Like, it's not, it has that unnecessary referral system. Same in the mental health, different conversation. The Assist connects to a brief intervention that's targeted for there's that sickness again, for the moderate risk range, for the people who using maybe a little bit too much, maybe having a little bit of problems, but it hasn't got to the point where they're dependent, right? What we're doing with the Assist is we're translating it. Translating it is one thing, but also culturally adapting it into Pitjantjatjara, which is one of the main languages spoken in the Central Corridor in Australia. And then the goal is then to do other languages as well, but we've had to kind of completely translate the language, but then translate the brief intervention. Now, when you deal in Indigenous health settings, there's kind of a global focus on not just only health, and they have a focus on social and emotional connectedness, and health and well-being is more global than just kind of disease and disorder like it is in Western culture. So there's we've had to focus on that a lot. The other thing with the assist is it focuses on harms. So it says like, if you continue drinking at this level, this is what you may experience, which is kind of negative focused. Whereas in Indigenous health settings, you have to be a lot more strengths based and focus on promoting good health rather than focusing on the negative. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff that we've had to.
You have to restructure the whole thing.
Completely had to restructure it, but you can't restructure it too much and lose
the core fundamentals of it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we've been in that process for ages now, over 2 years. We were meant to go to like Port Augusta prison and do some work in there, but then when COVID hit, we just lost all access to prisons, and so it's been stalling. And then our grant runs out next month, but we've just been announced that we've got another 4 years of funding. So we're in this kind of transition phase. So we're in the process of kind of developing all these. We've developed a mental health one as well that can help for use in sort of specialist mental health settings. Just constantly working out where are the frictions in the system and how can we kind of address them and change them. So yeah, that's what we're doing, and we do have consumer-led stuff, but like I said to you before, our main focus is on the kind of frontline health professionals to deal with it. We have developed a whole heap of like self-help resources and stuff, and we've got a website for consumers that they can go to, do screen. We've got apps they can use and stuff, but at the end of the day, I think the main identifying people who come to a primary health setting with, relationship issues or trouble sleeping or a sore back, they're the people that will potentially end up with substance use disorders if you don't sort of screen. So that's what we're kind of focused on.
Your fucking brain must be ticking like between like the fighting and like what you do. Is, like, what the fuck do you have a hobby?
Yeah.
Do you have hobbies? Like,
well, it's hard. Like I used to love playing any sort of sport. Tottenham Hotspur are my football team.
You're like a football fan.
Fucking obsessed with Spurs. But now, like I said, I have a kid. I wake up at 4:00 in the morning. I'll train. I'll go to work. I'll come home. I'll train. I'm into cooking now as well. Actually.
You like cooking?
I'm into cooking.
What do you like cooking?
I've started doing the old barbecue.
Which kind of barbecue? I can show you some shit.
You got to show me some shit.
I can show you some shit.
You got to show me some shit. But yeah, so like because my fiance.
That's such a early 30s man.
It totally
thing.
Is, man.
We'll
totally
talk about barbecue and Joe Rogan.
Yeah, totally, bro. I for my brother's birthday, I got him one of those Weber experiences where you go and do the grill thing.
Nice.
And we got the low and slow because that's what we want to kind of do. But
also like smoking.
Smoked meats and stuff.
Have you ever cooked on like one of those Traegers?
No, I haven't. I've heard.
I got one out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck, dude, it's such a game changer.
Is it?
Oh, it's just crazy. I don't know if you seen my story the other day with that steak I put on. I had like a 2 kilo fucking tomahawk steak.
I did say yeah.
And you just put it like those Traegers. You can set it to like 100 degrees.
Yeah.
And you just set it to 100 degrees. You put your thermometer in. You cook it to like 58 degrees. Then you blast it as high as you can. And it's perfect medium rare.
Yeah.
Like every time, like it's just perfect. I've done briskets in there.
Yeah.
Like ribs. It's just fucking. It's just another endeavor though. Like you can just go so deep.
It's like so. I used to run heaps. I still run heaps, but my mate Charlie Chow got me into cycling. And he's like, he loves his cycling. And so I do enjoy bike riding. $5,000 bike and shit. And I mean, I love it. But it's like one of those sports that's so fucking expensive. It's like golf. You know, there's a reason why old rich white dudes do it because
cycling is fucking crazy expensive. One of the reps for my shop, he's a mad cyclist. He does our packaging. He spent like 16.5 grand on a bike.
Yeah, you can so easily do that shit, man. And then it's the upkeep, you know. It's like fucking spare tires or a service or whatever. Cost you like hundreds.
I went and bought a mountain bike and I just ride it around trails and shit every now and then. It just makes me feel like young again. It makes me feel like I'm 15. It's so good.
Every time I see mountain bikes, there's these, because there's a Cashies near our place, and you always see like guys, you know, who have obviously been fucking nicking gear, riding around on mountain bikes. I saw this guy the other day. He had 2 mountain bike frames on his back, riding a 3rd mountain bike down the road, and you know he was going to Cashies to flog it off.
Yeah, you have to. Or you can't steal something and then just give it back. You have to sell it.
Exactly. You know,
You'd see some funny shit up that way. There's There's a lot of good food up in Payneham.
Oh, mate, yeah. So Paynham's got a big kind of Indian, Afghan and Asian kind of. So there's a lot of good Vietnamese. There's also like Fire and Stone and Brasco's pizza joints, which are fucking some of the best pizza.
That's something the South doesn't have. We got Pizza Teca down in McLaren Vale. I don't know if you've ever been there, but that's the only one. Like we don't have anything else besides pizza. Like for pizza, kind of. Yeah. But up Payneham, you got all the Italians, especially up in Paradise and all that area.
And then exactly up the northeast road. But you've also got the parade around the corner. So there's good food on the parade if you ever want to go like get breakfast at Argo's.
Argo's is amazing.
Argo's is good. And there's some good, Thai restaurants and things like that. And you're not far from the city. The beautiful thing about where I am now is if I get Uber Eats, I can get it from the city. Whereas when I was with my parents' house in Brighton, which was fucking beautiful on the beach. Game changer. But Uber Eats was like Marion Shopping Centre or Glenelg.
Now, do you know I can get food from the city from my house?
Can you?
Yeah.
What do you use, like NordVPN or something?
No, on Uber you can do like they'll deliver it for $15.
Oh, that's all right.
Do you know what though? There's some I'm obsessed with Asian, like any form of authentic Asian cuisine.
The best.
Except
Chinese.
Have you fought in Thailand?
Yeah, a couple of times.
Keep that thought. I just really need to take a piss.
You do it, man.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
This is the first time I've had to stop a podcast to take a piss. Sorry. All right, we're back. Where were we?
We were talking about fighting in Thailand and Asian cuisine, I think.
Yeah, so you fought in Thailand?
Yeah, so when I was doing Taekwondo, I fought in Thailand a couple of times, and I've gone over there and trained, but I've never actually fought Muay Thai in Thailand.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I've trained there a couple of times, had different stints at gyms, training for fights back here mainly. But it's definitely something that I would...
find out Lumpney or something.
Yeah, that'd be good. And now actually they've started doing kickboxing at Lumpini. So, but yeah.
So do you more focus on K1?
I mean,
kind of.
The majority of my fights have been K1, kickboxing rules. But I mean,
There's just no elbows, no knees in the clinch.
No, there is knees, but there's no. You have to knee with one hand on them. You can't like lock on and clinch.
Can't grab their head and slam it into your knee.
Well, you can one hand knee.
It's a gentleman's sport.
Yeah, and it's more active. I think it's a lot more voluminous. Like
not as clinch heavy.
Not as clinch heavy. Yeah.
Fuck clinching's shit anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so horrible.
I've had a couple of full Thai rules fights, and so I went and trained at F8 group in Thailand to get good in the clinch because it's such a specialist thing. Like you need to do it because it's so easy to nullify someone that doesn't know how to clinch. But I like striking. I like distance and control.
Have you ever have you ever had a boxing fight?
I've had amateur boxing fights.
They're different fucking animals, aren't they?
Yeah. So when COVID hit, we were trying to get fights all the time, but shows were just getting cancelled. Promoters weren't even interested in putting on fight shows because it was just, it was just a loss. Because of the capacity and crowds and things like that. So but at the same time, Boxing SA and most amateur boxing organisations were still running shows because they run at a loss anyway. So we did a couple of amateur boxing fights, but my style of boxing is not the amateur style. My style is very pro boxing style.
What's the difference in style?
Amateur's very
point-based?
Point-based, yeah. So, and like, it's about how many punches can you do, how many can you land. It's not about.
Whereas you're a fighter, you're more thinking about.
Yeah, so what we were working on was basically getting in and landing 3 or 4 big shots, And every fight I did serious damage to the opponent. And I thought I'd won most of the fights, but
you
some
didn't
of them I didn't outpoint them. And so we got to the point where I started then trying to change to win the boxing, and it was like, no, this is not, the whole purpose was just to stay active. And so, but I've spoken to Richie and Jez, and we would definitely take a pro boxing fight at some point
It'd be cool, but they're just so different, aren't they?
They are totally different.
Like, you can't fucking touch them. Like, they're just not there.
The other thing was, I had one of these fights, and this guy looked so heavy on the legs, and I actually I remember like saying to myself, "Don't kick him, don't kick him, don't kick him." And I was like,
"Can you fucking imagine?"
Oh, dude, because
what would happen? They'd have to stop the fight.
They'd fucking disqualify you. They'd probably bounce you out. But it was just. Like, normally I don't even think about it, It's like whatever the rule set is, whether it's full Thai or K1 or Karate Combat.
Yeah,
like,
this is the first one that you can't, like, just instinctively throw that.
And it's just
kick.
like, I know, like, I'm looking at the leg and I'm just staring at it like, I just want to fucking chop it. And I'm like, no, you can't do that.
It's so heavy on that fucking lead leg.
Could you imagine just fucking
I'm actually getting in, I'm not sure if you know him, Callum Peters.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's coming in.
Oh, sick.
He's coming to do the pod.
Yeah, he just did silver at the Commonwealth Games.
Yeah, I think he's going to Thailand or something. He's going to Bangkok, I think, to do like a training camp or something.
A boxing training camp?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, he's doing some sort of camp or some sort of work in Thailand or Bangkok or something. I think.
Nice.
I might just be fucking lying.
Yeah.
But we were talking the other day, and he's coming on in a couple of weeks. He seems like a cool kid. Good, big prospect. No one wants to fight him.
Yeah, that's the thing. No one wants to fight him because he's just too good.
Is he big?
He's tall.
He fucking won Golden Gloves at 80 kilos.
Yeah, I mean, I
don't know if I think he would have went up in weight, maybe.
Well, I mean, how old is he? He's like 18, 19.
He's young, 18,
so
I'd say.
He's starting to fill out now, I think. Like, when he was a couple of years ago, he was still a kid, whereas like now he's markedly
fucking
changed.
Must be huge.
Yeah, he's a solid unit. But yeah, fucking boxing's one of those things that you just I love pro boxing, but you need a good promoter and you need a good
which
opportunity.
is very few and far fucking between with boxing.
Not over here, anyway.
Dirtiest sport in the fucking world,
bro. Yeah.
Have you ever thought about MMA?
I have a few
Why
times.
not? Because you're smart as fuck. You'd be good at jiu-jitsu.
See, this is the thing. I don't know. Now I'm like 31. I'm like, do I have the time to
you just need to learn how to not get to the bad position. Like, you don't need to learn jiu-jitsu. You just need to learn anti-jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
You just need to learn
stifle the clinch.
How not to get choked. Like, you don't need to learn how to throw up a triangle. You need to learn how to get out of the triangle, which is a lot easier.
Well, when I was like mid to late 20s, I was thinking about it, but I just love stand-up fighting. I always have. And I didn't, and that was the time where I just signed for Glory, and I was like, all right, I don't want to take away time training.
Glory's as big as you can get as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's
it's
the
as
biggest.
big as you can get.
Israel did Israel used to fight on Glory?
Israel fought on Glory, and he got knocked out by Alex Pereira.
We were just talking about him before.
About that. He's a fucking animal, that guy as well.
If no one's seen the pictures circulating today, this will be out in not next week. This will be out not next week. No, this will be out next Friday. Go look at the pictures of Pereira. There's pictures of him standing next to Dominic Reyes.
Yeah.
You know Dominic Reyes?
Yeah.
There's a picture of him he is fucking way bigger than Dominic Reyes.
Yeah.
And there's a picture of him standing next to a UFC heavyweight. And he's fucking bigger.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how that man...
They said for the last fight when he fought Strickland that he cut like 30-something pounds.
Yeah, which is like, what would that be, 13 kilo, 14 kilo.
Like yeah.
But you can tell, because when he's there, he doesn't look like he'd be that strong.
No.
But he's so long, he just whips you.
Yeah.
Like, he looks like he just whips it in.
He looks like...
that left hook is so
just
clean.
Yeah.
I reckon he beats Izzy.
I do too, and I know that there's the psychological one there as well. You know, that little edge that he's previously knocked him out, rattled him in that press conference as well.
I reckon he's going to beat him. I just think
I 100% do.
I really do. I really do. Do you know old mate fought another fighter that became a doctor? Steve Behan.
Steve Behan fought him.
He fucking fought Izzy.
Yeah.
And
did.
apparently he did
He went to
okay.
5 rounds, I think. And so did Gary Williams, didn't he?
Oh, well, I'm not sure.
I thought Gary Williams fought him as well.
But
that's one for Miles.
that'd be pretty cool to get beat by the champ.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty cool. Have you fought anyone that's gone on to be insanely popular?
No, not that I can think of off the top of my head.
In kickboxing and Muay Thai, especially kickboxing, it's dominated a lot by a lot of heavier men, eh?
Yeah.
Like the Overeems and the Badaharis and
the Dutch kickboxers.
The Dutch kickboxers.
Yeah. At the moment, anyway.
What's his Verhoeven?
Rico,
didn't he just fight Badahari recently?
For like the 3rd time, and Badahari bitched it again.
Yeah. That Verhoeven's
he's a fucking unit.
But there's nothing more terrifying than prime juice to the gills, Alistair Overeem.
Oh yeah.
There's nothing
well,
better.
Overeem fought on Glory recently again as well.
Against who?
I'll have to find out. I think it was. Fuck, I can't remember. Ben Sadiq, maybe.
Did he win?
I didn't even watch it, to be honest.
When I'm getting the TV in here, we'd be able to pull that up.
Sit down and watch it. But yeah, Overeem. I mean, he's obviously it's like Raymond Daniels on Karate Combat.
He just needs a little bit of test, just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little.
Have you seen Vitor Belfort lately?
No, I haven't.
He's fucking. He looks like he's 21.
Fuck.
He posted a picture in a sauna about a year ago because he's making a comeback. I don't know if he's making a comeback or if he's just on it.
Yeah.
He posted a picture and his body must just absorb steroids so well. He looks younger. He looks
Benjamin Button style.
He fucking looks like he did 10 years ago. It's insane. And you see some pictures of Alistair when he was on the gear, and it's like, is that a real it looks like one of those things. It's like, is that photoshopped? Because his head's like a little pea, and it's just this big motherfucker around it. It's crazy.
There's a guy in one championship called Alan Ngani or something like that.
Is it African bloke?
African bloke.
Oh.
He's a heavyweight. He's a fucking juice to the nines.
One FC just brought in a USADA.
I know, and a whole heap of them failed testers.
They're all gonna fail.
Fucking
They're all juiced over there.
Oh, mate.
But that would be so cool if you could fight someone over there.
Oh, I'd love to fight on one.
Is there someone in Australia or Adelaide that you've always just wanted to fucking... You don't seem like a very aggressive person.
No,
it seems
not.
very business as usual.
I think it is,
you.
yeah. I don't have any...
Are you and Jordan Fielding in the same weight class?
I'm slightly heavier, and we were due to fight at one point.
Yeah, you can make that happen.
I've tried many...
You don't want to fight you, eh?
I don't think so. But see, he's normally 67 sort of kilos.
He's a good fighter.
Yeah,
I've seen him fuck something. You're in your head. You're like, I could beat the shit out of him. Just say it.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Just make it happen.
I wanted. We had a potential agreement to fight at the end of last year. He was going to come up to 70.
That'd be a big fight.
But he didn't. He wasn't keen to come up to 70. Although he's fought recently at 70.
Doesn't want to fight you at 70.
I don't think so. But I'd drop down to 68 to fight him.
You can now.
Well, I can now, yeah. I offered to him to have my purse if he beat me as well, but...
Oh, that's a big dick move.
Well, I wanted to make it... because what happened was, I had a fight lined up, and then my opponent...
This is the clip of the podcast.
This is the clip. I had a fight lined up. I don't know I can't even remember who it was, but my opponent pulled out, with a week's notice, and Jordan was meant to fight someone. The same thing happened to him, and we were like both two guys, wanting to fight, and we kept trying to make it happen, but it just didn't happen for whatever reason. And yeah, I said, let's go. I'll if you win, I'll give you my fight purse. But I think, to be fair to him, he was on the beach at that point. It was like, last show of the year, the fight wasn't happening. I think he'd kind of decided that he didn't want to. So he wasn't enticed by that. Sort of bribe, I guess you'd call it. But
not fucking bad.
Well, I mean,
I'd imagine you'd pretty sought after. Like you'd get a pretty decent purse.
I mean, yeah, some shows pay well, some shows don't. I mean, it depends where you go. No one pays 25k. That was,
That's a chunk.
It's a huge chunk of money.
That's some fucking methamphetamine money. That's some big money.
Well, I mean, you're not wrong when you say it's some methamphetamine.
For like kickboxing, it was kickboxing.
It was kickboxing.
For kickboxing in Australia, that's huge.
It's huge money. And not
there's
only
fucking
that,
UFC fighters. A new UFC fighter. They're on 10-10.
Well, that's pretty. I think one championship, some of the guys there get that. Glory didn't pay anywhere near that. Glory gave me $3,000 US to fight.
I did hear Caruso was on a pretty good wicket over there too.
Yeah. I think if you're in there on their radar, you get 10-10 or 5-5.
They used to give Ben Askren. They used to give him bonuses in exotic cars.
Yeah, right.
Like Lamborghinis and shit.
That's yeah.
That's when you get to that level, though.
Yeah, I mean, you just like Glory gave me $3,000 US. Karate Kombat was the same. They were $3,000 US. But then there's a bonus structure based on if you win by knockout, if you win by TKO, performance bonus, things like that. And then it goes up every time you fight. But the thing was, I wasn't on contract with them, so I couldn't win any of their performance bonus structure, because what they want to do is sign you to a long-term exclusive deal. And I said, no, I've got fights lined up for the rest of the year. I'm going to fight on those fights.
Would you sign a contract if the right contract came past, or do you like jumping around?
I would if the right contract came past, but for me, the biggest thing, and this is what I said to them, and I don't think they kind of understood, was that the most important thing about fighting for me is the people around me, my family, my friends. There's nothing better than going to a Knees of Fury
and all your mates being there.
All my mates are there.
It's fun too, because then when you fucking win, then it's on.
Exactly. And then we have this tradition, right, where at the end of a fight show, I'll go back to my parents' house. All my mates will come around. We'll have some beers, have some pizza, watch the fight potentially again, and just, wind down. And we've always done it, and I love that. And that, my parents, for example, my dad always comes to the show, like my family, they love it, and having them be a part of it is why I do it. And then, if I'm contracted to Glory, which I wasn't allowed to fight on any other shows. So I lose that part. And then they only had me on once, and then COVID hit, and they turned around and said, "Oh, well, we can't afford to fly you out right now." So you just sit on the sideline.
They paid for your flights and
shit.
They
pay for you to come over.
That's kind of fucking dope.
That's what they have to. I mean, they pay for you, and they pay for a trainer to come over. And same with Karate Kombat, they all expenses paid basically. Cost them like $15,000 US to fly.
I was going to say, so when you tally up your purse in total, you're not taking in the free flight.
No.
Like the experience.
No, yeah. So that's all covered. They just give you $3,000 cash. But here's the thing: if you're not a US citizen and you get paid $3,000, the US takes half of it for tax.
No way.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, but if you're in a tax treaty country like Australia is, you get that back at tax time next year. So I'll get some money back from the US next year, half of it basically.
Biden's just got it in his pocket.
Yeah, they'll probably change the law and keep it anyway, So, but like I said, I don't fight for the money. I have a few cash sponsors that give me. Were you
like this when you were younger and you weren't as mature?
Yeah.
You obviously, were you growing up? It's hard to say because you would have been at uni while you were fighting.
When I was, yeah.
Because did you ever grow up and just want to be a fighter? Like that was your...
Nah.
You always had a back... Like,
I always... When I was a kid, I wanted to be an automotive engineer.
So did you think if you were... Because you're obviously very disciplined so if you thought that you wanted to make fighting your career, do you think that you could have gone very far?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I was
because you're already at the pin. You're already at a very high level.
Yeah,
now.
I think it just depends on the opportunities that you have, and
it's also very luck, and you're
totally.
And also in today's age, you're not a shit talker by the sounds.
I don't shit talk, but I mean, if people
If you're going to put your purse on the line.
Well,
mate.
yeah, I mean, no, look,
If
but
you
it's,
got
it's quiet confidence, you know what I mean? Like, for example,
you
on
need that
Facebook
as
the
a
other
fighter.
day, like, so in my fight in Melbourne at the start of the year, there was this guy, I fought this guy who had 22 fights. He'd won 21 of them, and he'd won 19 of those by first round knockout,
Oh,
right?
that's a fucking record, isn't it?
He was like this. No one wants to fight him in Melbourne, right? And they've lined me up against him. And they've said, if you beat him, you can fight for a world title. I was like, right, no worries. He's just a heavy hitter, that's all. But the thing is, if they're a heavy hitter, it's fine if you can land a glove on me. But I back myself to not.
Very defensively smart.
You're not going to land a glove on me.
That's a fucking record, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. And dude, I went 5 rounds with this guy and absolutely pieced him up over 5 rounds. He didn't even touch me.
That's the thing, though. A lot of people are good at being the hammer.
Yeah, well, exactly. And this was the thing, was that he rocked up to weigh in overweight. He was like 300 grams overweight, but still overweight. He rocked up to the fight show. His coach was there. Condescendingly shook my hand before the fight. He's like,
yeah, just
all
a
the
prick.
best, mate.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, leave it all in the ring out there, all right? You know, that kind of
Good
shit.
on
Like,
ya.
get fucked. And I turned to Jez beforehand. I was like, fuck this guy. Anyway, I went in there and absolutely smashed him up. And his coach like stormed off. He just, couldn't land a glove on me. And anyway, point of this story was I hit him with this flying knee to the chin. And it fucking knocked him down. But they didn't give him an 8 count because he bounced back up. Now, you watch the video of this. There is no way.
Is this in the 8-man?
No, this was in Melbourne in March, I think, or April.
I'll look at it after.
Yeah, I'll show it to you. It's fucking, you see the sweat fly, just his chin
Perfect.
wobbles and he lands back, but he bounces up, like sort of springs back up. And they didn't give him an 8 count. Anyway, the promoter of the show shared the video. And I shared it and I was like, oh, I don't know how this didn't end up with an 8 count. And then the guy commented and he's like, oh, I knocked you down twice in that fight, bro.
Get fucked.
And I was like, bro, I don't know if you're still concussed from the fight or what, because, what the fuck are you talking about? Anyway, I was just like, and he was like, oh, I'll fight you again, blah, blah, blah. I was just like, make sure you turn up to weight next time, bro.
Yeah,
I don't shit talk, but like I won't take shit
you
from.
You have to have a confidence as a fighter. You
can't.
One thing I don't have, like, I'm not sure. Do you know one thing I don't have? I've always wanted to have one fight, just one.
Yeah.
But I can't be fucked making the weight, which means
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't fight. And I remember I was talking once. Do you know the Spaceys?
Yeah.
I was talking to Tren and Jack not too long ago. I was pissed as fuck at the pubs, and we were all hammered, and we were talking, and I was like, just what? Because they're fucking different. Like, they're just in here. They're just so different. They're animals, and they're so good, and they're just fucking...
Yeah.
They're just aggressive. And we were talking, and I was like, what makes... Like, don't you get scared? And they're like, nah. Like, did you train? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like, isn't the fight like... And he's like, no, it all depends on how much you train.
Yeah.
If you train and you have the confidence in your training, the fight is the reward.
Yeah. I mean, I've always said that for the way I look at it is I try and compartmentalize everything. So, because you can... if you have your first fight, you can get very kind of stressed out and anxious about the fight, and it hasn't even happened yet. And by the time you actually get to the fight, you've lost the fight. So I try and not even focus on the fight. I don't watch my opponents. I might do a little bit of research. I used to do a lot.
Oh, you don't watch film at all?
No. Now I get a sense of, do they like to attack? Are they southpaw?
Just the basics, like fundamentals. Are they aggressive? Yeah. Are they a counterpuncher?
Exactly. I don't try and go into the weeds because sometimes, I did it once in a fight. Saw this guy love to do this hook and step in knee,
and you were so aware of it that it happened,
and it didn't happen the whole fight, and it was like, oh fuck, well, what a waste of time. And the other thing is watching fights for an 8-man tournament. There's such a high churn in these things that you can get obsessed with fighting someone, and then it turns out on fight night they're not even in the show anyway, And this would happen, you'd watch film on someone who you're meant to be fighting, and then they'd pull out with an injury, and you'd get another opponent, and it's just at some point you have to go, okay, I need to stop worrying about that and only worry about myself. And I've got to the point now where I'm like, okay, are they southpaw? Are they orthodox? Do they switch? Do they like to, how do they set up their attacks? Do they like to punch their way in? Are they boxers? Are they aggressive? Just kind of get a general feel. Then it's like,
that's
okay.
weird. A lot of people prepare for fights in such different... Like, do you spar a lot?
Yeah, we do a lot of hard sparring. So
fucking a lot of people don't now.
Yeah.
Oh, not a lot. That's a lot of people in the higher, like, echelon of places, more in MMA, like the UFC.
Yeah.
A lot of high-level athletes don't spar anymore.
Well, I think so. Here's the thing. I do a lot of sparring. Our gym does a lot of sparring, and I think it's good for you to do a lot of sparring.
It's very controlled, though. You probably don't let a lot of strangers come in and throw hands.
None of that shit. So we spar at the gym, and I've always said to the boys and the girls at the gym that we spar with 100% to the legs, to the body, go hard. 50% to the head. Avoid the CTE, avoid the long-term brain damage.
If you want to knock someone down for gratification, a body shot's way more satisfying.
Oh, bro, there's nothing more satisfying than landing one.
There is nothing better than throwing a left hook to the body.
And that shows so much more control and dominance, I think, than just wild overhands and
fucking stuff. If you just see them crumbling in front of you, it's just like... Oh.
But I think, from my perspective, doing the hard sparring is really good because I know when my eyes in. Yeah, I know if I don't do it for a while, my reaction time goes and I start making little mistakes. So I know when I'm sparring, and I've done a couple. But I won't, like when I was a lot younger or a lot earlier in my fight career, there was a big focus on it just for ring experience.
Old school mentality,
what I mean? Yeah.
Though. You were just fighting in the gym. Yeah. You were just fighting.
Exactly. And now it's like I'm at a level, I need to maintain fitness, I need to maintain strength and conditioning.
And you got to peak. Like now, obviously, you know when, like, do you plan your camp around when to peak?
Yeah. So,
shit like that.
So I always have my fights lined up for the year. My next fight is in 6 weeks, basically, or 6.5 weeks.
6 weeks.
Or 5.5 weeks.
And where are you, when and where?
It's in Melbourne. Power play on October 8th.
Fuck, I want to go now.
Yeah, well, shit. It's a world title fight, so it'll be a big show. And the guy I'm fighting, Nathan Robson, is very, very good. He's tall. He used to be he's a southpaw. He used to do a lot of kicking on the arms, but then he went pro boxing for a while. And I think he's going to come and try and box the ears off me because he thinks that I can't box because everyone watches videos of me kicking. So
I found the opposite. I found your hands to be more impressive. Your hands are fucking. You must have some power because you don't really fucking you bring them back straight away, so you're not throwing heaps into them.
Yeah,
but it must be very crisp and very accurate. Like you hit the mark.
Yeah. So I mean, we've worked a lot on the distance, the long range stuff, but also getting in the pocket and landing 2s and 3s and big body shots. And I mean, I've got knockouts, left hook knockouts. I've got
your left hook. Your left hook's really fucking crisp.
I've got knockouts with left foot, right hand, left hand. No headbutts yet, but
let the way next year.
We'll see. We'll add that one in, but yeah. So I know So if my fight's in 6 weeks, I can write the week off before, fight week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to get too much training in. So I want to be in the 2 weeks but prior to that. So from 3 weeks out, I want to be doing 2 or 3 hard sparring sessions and feeling really good. It's mainly about where's my weight at. I want to be around 75 kilos at that point in time.
Why don't you want to be lighter?
Well, I could be lighter, but I find...
You want to be a minimum of 75?
No, I want to be 75. If I'm 74, 76, that's okay. But if I'm 78,
or 73,
it's too heavy. Because if I'm too heavy, then I'm not fighting at the same sort of weight that I will be on fight night. Because when I weigh in at 70, then I rehydrate, I eat, whatever. I walk in the ring 75, 76. That's where I want to be. Are you
allowed IVs? Do you do IVs?
You're not allowed IVs,
no,
and I've never done it because I don't.
Such a weird thing to not be allowed.
I mean, I think it's just an access thing that some people... some people have access to it.
Actually, I've never thought of it like that.
But also, I mean, there's obviously the possibility that you can blood dope or whatever, and then, an IV flushes out just about anything. So it's very easy to mask. But, I mean, I've always found that straight after... What I'll do and I know no one else does this, but I do it. I'll lose 300 grams more than I need to, or 200 grams more than I need to. And then I will first thing have a carb gel, have a little 150 mils of protein and greens powder in a little thing, slam that and go straight to weigh-in. So I've already had a bit of carbs.
Then you're bouncy. You're not like a fucking zombie on the way.
Yeah, I just do that little bit extra, and then I've already started the process of rehydration.
It's also like a mental warfare thing. Like if your opponent sees you not fucking drained and dying.
Yeah, well, totally.
It's obviously probably deterring for him.
Yeah, and I always rock up to weigh, and I always look fucking like a skeleton. I look decrepit.
You got pretty natural, like your face in general. Yeah, you got very high cheekbones in general.
You should see when like my teeth protrude and
that's
I
fucking
look like a bird.
When you were 68 kilo, that would be great. Like Conor McGregor when he was fighting at 145 pounds.
Yeah.
There's pictures of him, and it's like that's
it's not right.
Crazy.
Well, and you feel every bit of it. So, but then as soon as weigh-in happens, I'll drink my Hydrolyte water, have a few bananas, have a big pasta meal, then start eating very clean, like rice, fish, tuna, whatever. And I'll walk into the ring 76, 77 kilos.
Do you eat day of?
Yeah, I eat day of. So usually routine will be go out for breakfast. I'll have like toast, sourdough toast with avocado, poached eggs. I try and avoid like greasy bacon and stuff. I might have some mushrooms or something like that. And then I'll have a bit of fruit throughout the day, like berries, bananas, another protein shake. For lunch, I'll have rice, grilled salmon, tuna, something like that, bit of salad, bit of veggies. And then before the fight, depending what time I'm fighting, if I'm fighting main event and it's like 9 o'clock, then I'll have like a dinner at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. But if like this week I was fighting in the 8-man, my first fight was first fight of the night, I had like, that was 7 o'clock. So I had to make sure I was eating at 3. So yeah, just time the food around that. But you got to avoid eating shit like red meat. You know, I don't know if you know.
Just heavy?
Yeah, heavy. Doesn't digest well. I don't know if you know Anthony Pugliese.
I was talking about him today, and I was like, it's a shame that he doesn't like fight heaps. Like,
yeah,
he's
a beast. He's a beast. But when he was fighting MMA, I think in his like third fight,
he was like 5-0, 6-0.
Yeah, he was a beast. Yeah,
animal. I've seen him at the gym because he does a lot of jiu-jitsu at M16.
Yeah, that's his focus now.
You grab your fucking neck and you're done.
Well, I think literally every fight he had, he stopped the person with the guillotine. Like,
he's an animal.
But
great
I think
bloke too.
He's a top lad. But I think on his third fight, he was like upside down trying to get this guy in a guillotine and ended up choking him out in the third round. But we went out in the back afterwards and he's like burping and he's like got this real bad indigestion. And he was like, I just feel so sick. We're like, well, what'd you eat? And he's like, I had a big fucking steak like an hour before the fight.
So that's not good.
No, bro. No. Red meat takes like 12 hours to digest.
So you're better off going veggie for the day.
I mean, if you got to eat red meat, eat it for breakfast, but no one does that. You know, eat fish, eat chicken, eat tuna. That's
right.
It'll digest a lot quicker. Don't eat red meat.
I'm actually doing a podcast. I'm not sure if you know this bloke called James Newbury.
Oh, yeah. The CrossFit guy.
Yeah, he's coming on. I was a couple of years below in school with him.
Yeah.
And he's coming on, and I'm looking at his shit, and I think he's vegan.
Oh, man. All of the CrossFit guys have that kind of...
But his physique, it's like... How? Like, maybe some tests or like something, but like, even that... like, people say... like, I say that, but the amount of work that goes into maintaining that kind of body...
It's cultish, man.
It's
CrossFit.
Fucking insane. I was watching... He did 500 fucking skips. Today, he put up a story or a video.
Yeah.
And he was skipping. But he wasn't skipping like a float. Like, he wasn't...
Yeah.
He was fucking jumping.
Yeah.
And he did 500 in a row. And I'm like, he's one of the fittest man in Australia, like 5 times running.
He's quite famous, I think, in the CrossFit circles. But the... CrossFit and fighting have a dark sort of comparison in
very
the sense
explosive movement.
Yeah, in the sense that they can very quickly lead to like eating disorders.
Why, really?
Well, fighting's one of those ones where you do that yo-yo dieting.
Yeah,
A
I
lot.
guess that is an eating disorder, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it is. And what happens is people learn bad habits.
Like
that are
Paddy the Baddy.
Yeah, well, exactly. But people learn bad habits and associate it with different patterns of eating and body image, especially girls. It happens with guys as well, but especially girls. They cut weight for fights. They look really lean and really good.
They want to look like that all the time.
Yeah, and they get a lot of positive comments and stuff like that.
You see, like I know a couple chicks that through certain people that do professional not bodybuild. What are they when they're showing off their body, the bodybuilding?
Body competition or whatever.
Yeah. But they get fucking so big, and then they get so lean, and then they pack on 30 kilos after, and then they lose it again. And I'm like, that's worse than fighting, because fighters generally 75% of fighters are in shape all year round.
Yeah.
Unless you're like a Paddy the Baddy.
Yeah.
Who he's fucking going to kill himself. He looks like Chris Griffin. He's gained like 60 pounds, like 30 kilos since his last fight. It's crazy.
There's obviously some other...
Like it's just crazy though, because he's got so much talent. But you can like the difference between the top 100 and the top 20 is not doing that.
Yeah, man, and that's the thing is that, you know, there's always this mantra about don't get ready, stay ready, and all that kind of bullshit, which is just a joke. You need to ebb and flow, and you need to have peaks and troughs. But
obviously, you can't fucking maintain a peak physique.
You can't die. Do it. Yeah, you can't.
Unless you're like David Goggins.
Fuck. Goggins is a parody of himself as well, I think.
But like,
I used to love Goggins, but now I see him like running and
Have you read his book?
Nah, I haven't.
I have it here. I can give it to you.
Oh, I don't know if I'd read it, to be honest.
Do you know what? It's more interesting. He obviously sells his brand now.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
That's it. But the fact that there's people out there that can push through...
Oh, it's impressive, you know.
Like,
there's no doubt.
It's a very weird mind. It's like that. It's even like on the weekend, like Leon Edwards. Did you see?
Yeah.
Like you're getting beat the fuck up for 24 minutes, and you just muster up that. There's some people that they just never have.
Well, that it always reminds me of the fucking Tyson Fury getting knocked out by Wilder. And then that Undertaker moment of just, right, let's go to work.
He was knocked out. He wasn't even...
His head hit the canvas. His eyes were rolled back in his head. And it was just like...
He wasn't 10-8. He was like knocked out cold.
Yeah. And I don't know how the fuck he stood up. If there is a God, you know, out there...
But there's just people like that can...
I know.
Like there's just something like David Goggins. First race he ever ran, 100-mile race. Like, and he just kept running. He shit his pants. Feet were bleeding. Pissing fucking mud. Like, it's just insane. There's particular people, and I don't get it. Because if something sucks, I'll just stop doing it.
Yeah.
Unless it's like obviously a training or...
Yeah.
But I'm not going to run till I'm pissing blood.
I mean, look, if you want to get anywhere, like in fighting, you have to be a bit crazy. You do have to, and you have to be able to be you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Whether that's in training or in the actual fight. But
it's like
obviously there's a fucking line.
Like Volkanovski when he was getting choked out by Brian Ortega. Do you remember that?
No.
Did you watch are you familiar with Volkanovski?
Yeah, I've seen Volkanovski's fight.
Did you watch the fight with Brian Ortega when he was in a guillotine and he fucking oh my God, I have to show you this.
Yeah.
So there's this bloke in the Are you familiar with Brian Ortega?
Oh, only in name.
Mexican bloke, long hair, got braids. He his name's T City because his moves a triangle like. And he's fucking phenomenal with a guillotine. He is phenomenal. He's one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners in the UFC.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you know, at M16, there's a bloke called Adam Jones.
Yeah, his
brother Craig was in the corner because he was training jiu-jitsu with Volkanovski.
Yeah.
He had nothing to do the whole fight. Alex Volkanovski, he was beating the shit out of him. Volk was beating the shit out of him.
Yeah.
I think it was round 2 or 3. Worst case scenario happens.
Yeah.
He overextends, puts his neck out, and they jump on a guillotine, and it's fucking so tight. So Craig's gone from, on his first fight ever, it's a title fight.
Yeah.
He's gone from like not having anything to do to being the most important person in the world. And fucking, you just see it's as tight as a guillotine can get, and it's from the most dangerous person to get it from. And Volkanovski's, like, just from pure fucking will and technique, did not pass out, somehow got out of it. Then Ortega, he jumped back in. Ortega threw up a triangle, which is his signature fucking move, locked it on tight as fuck. Volkanovski somehow got out of it. So this is like looking like a 10-8 round. Volkanovski gets out, beats the ever-loving shit out of Ortega, and probably wins the round. Like, insane. And ends up winning the fight. But it's just like moments like that. As a fighter, do you wait? Have you always wait? Have you had a moment like that where you've just been fucked and then you've just come through and you're like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. Like, nothing, I guess, to that kind of...
You kind of want to avoid them.
yeah. I mean, that's the whole point, is not to be in a triangle choke in the first place.
But does every fighter did you deep down, do you want that kind of adversity to go through?
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like that, that's the truest test, right? That's
what you do it
what
for.
You're fighting, yeah, exactly. It's a battle against yourself more than anything else at the most fundamental level. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely moments in fights where I've had where, I've been up against it and you've just pulled out something that's just, for example, in the second fight I had against this guy in the 8-man, he chopped my leg out completely to the point where, like...
Yeah, you were saying that calf kick.
The calf kick. He got me with 2 or 3 kicks.
Are they prominent in kickboxing? Or
but they've started to be.
Because of MMA?
Yeah, they've totally started to be.
That's a game
I don't know if
changer.
you saw Liam Harrison have his leg broken last night.
Oh my God, he's my favourite fighter. Like, he's my favourite kickboxer, Muay Thai fighter too, because he's so aggressive.
Yeah.
He's so
he fought
technical.
Nongo in
Did he break his leg?
Yeah, fractured his either fractured his tibia. Or did something in his meniscus or something. I don't know. He fucked him up anyway. But it was the same thing. He got 2 or 3 of those kicks to the calf, the back of the calf, and that was it. And that was where I was at. I was at that point. But I went back to the corner and they were like, you just have to get your hands on him and just hit him. And then I just sort of found a way, backed him up against the rope, and he bounced off the rope. I hit him with the left hook and that was it. But, if that fight goes longer and I cop any more of those kicks to the leg, I wouldn't have made it out of that fight, for sure.
It must be such an amazing feeling. Like, no one in this world will ever feel what Leon Edwards felt.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it gives me goosebumps thinking about it. Like,
those are those moments where.
But the whole world was watching him.
Yeah.
Everyone was turning away from their TV. I was on my phone. I was like, it's over. Like, and I had money on him, and I ended up winning as well. And I was like, fucking, it's over. Everyone thought it was done.
Yeah.
His coaches in the corner were fucking. I don't know if you were listening.
No.
And it's like his coaches in the corner were like beating the shit out of him. Like, it was such a rocky moment.
Yeah.
And it was, no one in the world will ever feel how he felt after that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he probably doesn't even know where he was throwing that. But you can see the videos of him training that in
kick.
The build-up.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. In those moments, that's all you've got to rely on is your training. This is what you're getting back to talking about with the Spacey Boys before. It all comes down to, have you done the work? Have you prepared? Have you put in the work?
Because if you don't believe in your preparation, then you're fucking lost. You've lost.
Totally. And that's where I always do my double sessions, my triple sessions. One thing I do every Friday is I go down to the Seacliff ramps and I end up running 25 Ks at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I know that because I know that my opponent isn't doing that. And for me, it's like a purely mental thing. And when I get in the ring, I know that I'm fitter, I'm stronger, I'm
fatigue's
faster.
A massive one, because fatigue makes a coward out of anyone.
Well, exactly right, and I know that, like, all things being equal, I've done more work. And you know what? If he's doing the same thing, then we're on an even playing field.
Yeah.
You know, but if
And then
I'm
it's
not
skill for
doing
skill.
it, if I'm not doing it, then there's every chance that he is, and then I lose because I've, you know. So that's where I kind of come from. But it's a purely mental thing where you go back to in the last dying seconds of the round and you're gassed out, and maybe you've taken a few shots to the head and you're a bit wobbly. You have to rely on your training, and so. Yeah, you have to have good trainers in the first place, but you have to have been there before as well, I think is the key.
Yeah.
You know, and you can't simulate that with sparring or whatever.
No, it's different. It's different. I'm
Yeah.
sure it's very different pace as well. And then you got stakes involved, and then you got shit talking involved. Like, hopefully at the gym you don't have someone you don't like.
No, everyone's good at our gym,
But like,
you have to be.
Hopefully at most gyms, that there's, because all my experiences are very good.
Yeah.
But I imagine when you're about to fight someone, you're trying to find bad blood a lot of the time.
Yeah. I don't know. I know that some people are definitely like that, but I, like you said before, I'm all business. For me, it's like
You fight better calm.
totally.
A lot of people.
I used
a
to
lot
be
of people
very
do.
aggressive and emotional as a fighter. And you make bad decisions when you're emotional.
And that's when you get
really
clipped.
do. And that's when you get clipped. That's when you overextend. That's when you try and hurt them. The best knockouts I've ever got haven't been trying to hurt. They've just been technique. Yeah. And
see, I don't. That spinning heel kick's so good. Well,
that was all technique, bro.
I don't know if you remember it. And there was a. I don't know his name. There was African bloke. I think you were fighting.
Yeah.
And he just ran at you, and you just
hit him with a right
popped
hand.
him with the right hand.
Yeah. So that, and there was another Afghan guy in Melbourne that I hit with like a nice 1-2 at one point and just put him down. And like I said, if you try and hurt someone, you tense up really hard and you end up not actually hitting them or glancing. Whereas it's the ones where you just throw
Pop
out of
them out.
instinct.
Yeah.
And you don't even think about it. And then all of a sudden they're on the ground and you're like, oh shit, that was good. You know? So yeah, that spinning heel kick one was one of those ones where you just like in the zone, like it just comes out, it just hits. And as soon as I felt my foot touch the neck, it was like hit him just at the top of the neck, I knew instantly that he was out cold. Like I just felt it sink in, you know?
Yeah. Well, this has been fucking crazy. So we've gone from drug dealers giving you $25,000 cash. GPs are horrible. You should not trust them.
Yeah, avoid GPs like the plague.
The WHO isn't too bad.
Fauci's
all right.
retired though, isn't he? So,
Yeah, he's done.
yeah, he's gone.
Yeah. So
You're not coming back from
He's
that.
not coming back. COVID's fake.
Yep. COVID's fake. Big conspiracy.
COVID's fake. Games are not good for you.
Well, actually, no.
Loot boxes aren't good for you.
Loot boxes aren't good for you. Games are good for you.
Loot boxes aren't good for you. And you are fighting in 2 weeks' time.
Yep, in Melbourne.
Because you fought so recently, do you have to do a camp again, or is it just keeping sharp?
Yeah, so it's not a full... Like, I mean, I'm always... in terms of diet, exercise, all that sort of stuff, I'm always...
It's more like
good.
reflexes, and it's more just the technical aspect of fighting rather than...
Yeah, exactly. So at the moment, I'm still recovering from the injuries from my last 8-man.
I'll scrub out that whole your leg hurts thing.
Oh, yeah, no, it's all good. That's all good. I want him to target my leg anyway so I can hit him with the overhand. But, I mean, I'm just in that kind of transition now between my last fight and this next fight. I think I went to training last night. I did some cycling. I'm going to go tonight, do a little bit of boxing, just slowly ease back into it. I'll start next week, fully into it. And then I'll have 4 weeks or 3 weeks plus the fight week, which is plenty time because like this will be my 6th fight this year. Like it's just been constantly fight after fight after fight. So you don't lose. I mean, you lose a little bit of distance and timing and the weight change, but you don't get ring rust.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, of course you're not. You're so active anyway.
Yeah, so I'll be fresh as.
And it's for a title.
It's for a world title.
Yeah, easy. So when you win that, you can come back and we'll have a few more beers.
Yeah,
Maybe we can get you on with maybe one of your coaches or something, and we'll put the title right here.
Well, yeah, so I'm getting married in November, so this will be my last fight this year. I mean, I wanted to do the Knees of Fury, but I thought, nah, fuck it all. I've had 6 fights.
Enjoy being a human.
I've had 6 fights. Like, I might just have this one and just...
That will be your 6th fight this year.
Yeah.
Fucking maniac.
Yeah.
You need a break.
Since April. I know. It's just been fucking hectic, but...
And you work in... And you have, like... You have an important job. It's not like you're fucking... Like, you don't have a job. You're a fucking doctor.
Yeah. Well, that was the hardest...
Crazy.
It's funny, like, my last fight in Melbourne finished on a Sunday night. I flew to... Sydney on Wednesday for work, and I was there Wednesday, Thursday.
Oh, so you fly. Do you ever fly internationally?
Not yet, but we do occasionally do stuff. But like I said previously, our grant is given from the Australian Government Department of Health, so a lot of our focus is domestic Australia. Like
anything you can travel for is pretty cool.
Oh, mate, just getting the Qantas frequent flyer points, you know.
Pretty cool.
It's like the Qantas lounge, the Virgin lounge.
You get those lounges.
Well, no, the guy I travel with is a life member, so he always gets me in.
Just living that dream.
Oh, bro. It sucks, like, because I went to Sydney the 2 weeks before my fight, and so I was obviously eating very well. And, like, the Qantas lounge has got all these fucking cakes and shit, and I'm like, oh, that looks so...
Does everyone know that at your work that you could fucking really hurt them?
Yeah.
Do they?
It's funny because...
Do you have the collies?
No, I don't have collies. No. But I'm always walking in with black eyes and, like, fucking scun knuckles and shit, and people...
It's like, good. It's just like,
don't fuck with that guy. But, yeah, no, I think heaps of people live vicariously through it.
Do you know what's weird? You're so well spoken, and you're so like you don't look aggressive at all.
Well, I'm not aggressive, but
and people just wouldn't understand. Like, there's people though that have never been in like a combat gym scenario where they don't understand. Like, you can get really fucking hurt.
Oh man, trust me. The amount of times like I've been driving and shit like that, and you've had like road rage incidents,
and it's like that person doesn't understand. Like, they've never been to a gym. They maybe bottled someone twice. They knocked a kid out that's never trained.
Yeah, who had his back turned, you know.
And like, it's like you just have no idea how violent some people can fucking be.
Yeah. You got to be careful in street fights as well. Like,
that's so important, because I used to get into a couple, but like I got knocked the fuck out at the Grand, and that opened my eyes up so much.
Yeah. I mean, your head hits the concrete if you've been drinking. Fuck.
No, I got into a fight with these 2 kids, and they were small. They were smaller than me. Like, they weren't tall. Yeah. And then right before we started fighting, it was on my birthday. It was like right before we started fighting, I was like, oh no, they've got collies. Like, their ears, their fucking ears were out here.
Yeah.
And as soon as I said that, I was like, let's do this. He fucking whipped his little leg up so quickly, hit me fucking right across the temple.
That was it.
Flash knocked me out.
Yeah.
Woke up, cops were fucking running at me. I've booked. I'm the only ethnic there, so I'm getting arrested.
Yeah.
But yeah, fucking, if people just don't understand, like, unless you've been around people who know how to fight, there's nothing you'll be able to do.
No.
Like, there's nothing.
No.
Like, nothing.
Exactly. And now it's like, isn't it fun? I've never seen it happen, but wouldn't it be funny if you're like out somewhere and you picked on someone like Craig Jones or something, and he just fucking puts you in a leg lock?
The thing is, I don't know if you've trained any jiu-jitsu. Do you know what? I would say that someone with really good jiu-jitsu in a one-on-one scenario has way less chance of being hurt than someone with Muay Thai or boxing.
Oh, yeah.
Only in a one-on-one, because if there's multiple, it's very different. But I remember when I started striking, you can land a really lucky punch against someone and you feel amazing. There's not a single lucky punch in jiu-jitsu.
No.
Because it's all technical.
Yeah.
If someone who knows jiu-jitsu grabs you and they have a hold of you, there is not a single fucking thing on this earth that's ever getting you away.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And 100%
In saying
agree.
that, if you kick someone in the head, there's a very little chance of them fucking waking
Yeah,
up.
well, that's the thing. It's like,
if there's multiple people, obviously your skill set's fucking going to be a lot more impressive.
Well, what I always say to kids, like at taekwondo gyms and stuff, that we teach some kids classes from time to time, and I always say, like, if you're in a situation where there's a fight and you can escape, especially if someone's got like a knife,
run
get away. Like you taekwondo. I don't know if you saw that video of that guy at the train station, getting stabbed.
That's
in the neck.
what everyone was saying. Everyone was saying how horrible. Why did he fucking approach him?
Yeah.
Why would you? And it's very, very graphic.
It's horrible. It's horrible to watch,
graphic.
but you can see how quickly shit like that can turn on a dime.
But if someone's running at you with a fucking knife, like a 2-inch knife, you don't walk up to them.
No.
Especially when they're probably on fucking drugs.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, they all look hyped up on some shit.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you... It's totally unrelated. I'm not sure if you've seen my podcast with, Carly Angel?
Yeah, I know Carly.
She has, like, at Boars, they have, like... They've made a belt system.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand why they had it. And until I talked to her. And the whole belt system's more for, like, kids' gratification.
Yeah.
And so people who don't want to fight.
Yeah.
And that whole thing for children, I'm so big on, because I think the best thing for kids with jiu-jitsu is the reason they get belts.
Yeah.
Because they see that instant gratification.
Yeah. As levels, and they can work towards something.
And not everyone wants to fight, but they want to know what kind of level they're at.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, there's the system that most traditional martial arts have, like karate, taekwondo, that sort of stuff, is that belt system. In Muay Thai, we don't typically have it. Like it's not. But I always came from
it's cool
those,
for kids.
I always came from that kind of system, that structured kind of. Yeah, you grade, and dude, it can be overdone, and it often is overdone because
it's overdone for money. Everything's overdone for money.
Your parents just get exploited because there's all of a sudden there's 3 red belts and 3 blue belts and 3 yellow belts and
you have to pay $80 for a stripe.
Every single 3 months you have to pay another. Yeah, exactly. And it's just a money making exercise. But that aside, you're 100% right, or Carly's 100% right. Giving kids a goal and a comparative kind of look around is so it's going to keep them there. It's going to retain your students, and it's going to keep them there long term. And hopefully they'll get to the point where they decide that they actually want to do it for themselves and continue doing it.
I got one final question for you that I've been thinking about.
Sure.
So, as a professional fighter and a smart man, how many in waves of like 4, like they coming at you in waves?
Is this like a turtle-sized duck or a duck-sized turtle?
No. I ask everyone this, but it's more. I feel like you're more intriguing because you're going to give me a realistic answer. I don't think people think about it enough.
Okay.
So there's waves. There's these year 7s, year 6s. So they're pretty small. They're like 30 kilo.
What's that, like 12?
12, 11?
Yeah.
So they're coming at you in waves of 3 and 4 sporadically. Mm-hmm. How many waves do you reckon you could comfortably beat the fuck out of?
Oh. And how frequent
You get a
are the
minute
waves?
rest.
You get a minute rest. Oh.
Minute rest.
I could probably go for close to an hour, I reckon. 60
How many
waves?
rounds? 60. You reckon you could do fucking 60?
Yeah. Because I
Really?
reckon a good because the thing when you is that too? I don't know.
You have to think about it.
No, so here's the thing: when you fight multiple people, you want to kind of make sure you've got all of them in front of you. You don't want to let them surround you. So what I do is try and find a way to put them in front of me.
See, my mate Goobsy said that it would be on a playground if he could choose, and he would get on top. He'd get like the high ground.
Just kick him.
Yeah, but
I reckon it'd take a few well-positioned low kicks. Just bang.
That's what I'm
out,
saying. But you got see the issue with me. I reckon I could get 20, but I reckon cardio would get the better of me.
Well, that's what I think. If I've got a minute rest between each round, I reckon I could go pretty much all day until.
All right, so a minute's probably too much for you. Let's say.
All right, you're saying the minute, every minute.
Let's say every single minute a new round comes in.
And what happens to the old ones?
They compile.
Oh, well,
but they're fucking small kids.
I know. So this is the thing. You got to be targeted. I'd be going low kicks and I'd be going knees just to the head, and I'd just be...
No punches.
Well, I mean, because you're punching down. I mean, little uppercuts would be all right, but I reckon just blasting kicks just in the general vicinity and see how many you can collect would be the way to go.
So we're calling it 60.
I reckon I reckon that would be my aim. If I could last an hour, I'd be happy. And that
I
would
really have to find a way. I have to find a way to just fucking figure this out. I've been thinking about it for 2 years. My mate said to me another one the other day, but it's fucking too hard to talk about.
Okay.
It's like we were doing a podcast the other day. Do you want that?
No, you're all good, mate.
We were doing a podcast the other day, and he asked me a question, because I always ask weird questions like that. He goes, if you could commit one crime, but once you commit that crime, it never ever gets committed again, what would you do? And I was like, fuck. Like, it's such a hard question.
Wow.
It's so crazy. But then one of my mates said that he'd just robbed the richest man in the world, so then he could never be robbed.
That's true.
But I just like to focus on beating the fuck out of the kids.
The kids, yeah.
Because eventually you're going to
Easy
have
targets,
to do this. Because you got a boy. Is he going to be a fighter?
Well, he's always at the gym, carrying on, kicking bags.
What's his name?
Charlie.
Yeah.
He's a little terror. But yeah, he's at the gym all the time. I don't want to like.
Would you be terrified watching your son fight?
Probably. I think there'll always be that kind of paternalistic thing. But look, for me, like my dad comes to all my fight shows. He's been involved in my fight career my entire life. I think the
Mums are a bit different.
Mum will only watch a replay if I've won.
Really?
Yeah,
so she's never seen you lose?
No.
Do you know what? That's fair.
Yeah, and it's totally understandable. Like I wouldn't want her to, and fight shows are fucking grim. There's always like fucking drunk slobs everywhere, like, carrying on like...
Do you know what? I've never been too bad at a fight show besides there was one fight show.
There's always people yelling shit out and you're like, fucking... And racist shit coming out as well. Oh,
it's a fucking animal pit.
It is. It brings out the worst in people.
Miles's last fight, Eternal at the Titanium Arena, was his last fight. There was like 4 tables of M16. We all got the corporate tables, cage side, unlimited drinks, and a 3-course meal.
Yeah.
Fuck, that was the worst I've ever been.
Yeah.
Ever. Because there was just so much adrenaline. There was like 3 people. You know when there's someone from the gym you're training at?
Yeah.
You're just like... You just turn into a fucking ape.
I know.
And it's so bad.
I've got friends that are not involved in the fight scene whatsoever, guys that I went to school with and stuff. Like some of them play footy and stuff like that, but they're just not involved in it whatsoever. And they've like come to my fights and they've said they've never like lost control.
Oh, dude, there's
like,
something about it.
They're like, it just, I was scared. Like,
it turns you into a fucking animal.
Yeah.
And then you're around your boys and you're all wearing the same shirt. You just turn into a gang.
Yeah.
It's just gangs.
Yeah.
It just turns in. I've never been to Rikers. I've got to come in one day.
Oh, you should, man.
Yeah.
It's a serious gym though, like it's fucking... It's like this. Like
they
it's
always have fucking good fighters.
Yeah, and
Rikers
we pride
always
ourselves on that because it's we.
Do you have MMA fighters? You've
Well,
got a lot. You've got Brando.
Well, yeah, we had Anthony at Pugliese and we had Will Kolarov as well.
He's on a little. Is Pugliese on a little vacay?
Yeah, a little honeymoon, I think.
He's doing drug deals in Sicily.
Yeah, I think
what the
so.
fuck's going on there?
Yeah, classic.
I got to get him on. He's a fucking gun.
He's good. He'll be good to chat to. I reckon he's a smart little cookie. He loves his gaming as well.
He does.
Obsessed with his gaming. So you could talk about that. I think he played. What does he play? Minecraft or something?
That's
no,
too
it's
much.
not Minecraft. No, it's not Minecraft. It's fucking.
I'm not an MMO guy. Did you ever play games when you were a kid?
Not. I mean, yeah, definitely played games, but I always had like consoles, so I was always.
I was a console guy too.
Yeah, that was the extent of it. I had computers, but I never really.
Never fucked with them heaps.
Nah, never fucked with them heaps.
The most I use a computer is to do this podcast on.
Yeah, well, I'm starting to learn how to code and stuff like that because there's a lot of data cleaning and
just
stuff
casually.
Like that. Well, yeah,
learning to code.
Yeah, well, it's fucked because a lot of my work is on a computer in big data sets and things like that, and a lot of it can be automated if I just knew how. So
Yeah, right.
like not writing papers and doing research, but like sending certain emails and updating websites and things like that. A lot of it can be, I have to manage and I have to do it fucking manually every time, and it's just like there must be a better way to do this, and I'm not interested in paying anyone to do it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like spend some time, figure out how to do it, and do it.
All right, so for everyone watching, this is going to be out next Friday. Where can we watch your fight?
So
what's going on?
My fight was on the 8th of October. So if this goes out on the 9th of September, which I think next Friday will be, it'll be
under a month.
Yeah, 4 weeks from then. You can watch it live on Fight TV. It's an app. Fight.
Oh, really?
FITE. Yeah.
Cool.
Fight TV. It's an app. I think the show will probably cost $30 or something. Otherwise, there's often a dodgy fucking
Instagram
we'll see it on
stream.
Facebook. Yeah.
Or just fucking pay the money, spend $80, fly to Melbourne.
Or that, although you'd probably want to get in quick because I think around that time is October long weekend. It might be the weekend after, actually.
Yeah, right.
But, it's just impossible to get. I think it is actually the weekend after October long weekend, but it's impossible to get accommodation and flights. So, yeah, October the 8th. It's called Power Play. I'll be main event, so I'll be fighting probably 10 o'clock Melbourne time, which will be like 9:30 Adelaide time. There's actually another Adelaide boy on there, Anthony Gilbert, who he fights out of Frontline, which is up north. He's a very, very... his last fight was at Titanium Arena. Nice. Very, very good technical fight. He's a bit lighter. He's about 63. Southpaw, very sharp kicks. He's fighting for an Australian title, so he'll be against a guy called Rahman Habib. He'll be semi-main event. So two SA boys, main and co-main.
Go and support it.
Fucking go and support. All my friends and family will be coming down because it's a world title fight. So, have a beer with us afterwards.
Boom. Done. Thank you.
Thank you. Ching.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.
That was
mate.
awesome.